Over the rough colonial tracks comes Archer the leggy bay, walking all the way to Melbourne for just one day. One day when sinews strain and nostrils show bright red. For a weak horse never won our cup. No, not on this fabulous Tuesday. From over the sea came a legend called Carbine. Such Tasman trips are now a familiar story, but our cup was barely 3 decades old when Carbine blessed it with his glory, lumping 10 stone up that Flemington Strait, and the crowd roars, for here's another hero to fate on this fabulous Tuesday.
The champion horse Farnham raced home to a 3-length victory in today's Melbourne Cup, 72,000. And at midday today, the dramatic news was broadcast around Australia that the champion had arrived. In other news,
From deep in a depression gloom comes the great red horse who will boom. Farlap, Farlap, will there ever be another so good? The stands shake as Pike clicks him away. No jock ever earned his money so easily on this fabulous Tuesday.
It's going to Peter Pan will win it. Peter Pan will win it. Peter Pan wins.
They're off. The start for the Melbourne Cup of 1937 has begun.
The trump is finishing like a shot out of a gun. And the trump...
Old Rolly first, my guy second, and third place.
And in the run of the boat, rising fast, going to win the Melbourne Cup by 2 lengths from Hellion.
I don't think Tulloch's got the bowler's chance.
Saber light fingers, Saber, light fingers. Seabiscuit wide around, and here's Galilee. It's Rain Lover, 4, 5 lengths in front, and New Zealand gets the money back. There's no but Fleming Raiders won the money.
It's Vanderham in front in the Melbourne Cup.
Belldale Bull stopping to a walk, but he's going to win. Belldale Bull, Johnny Letts beats my...
What a parade. These fabulous Tuesdays. Drought and depression, good times and bad. We traipse to Flemington, and the nation holds its breath while we wonder at the gameness of light fingers, or at bolters like Piping Lane, champions like Galilee, or the gritty Del Rey. For they were all touched by immortality on this fabulous Tuesday.
They're making some sort of a run, and Pee-wee late. It's going to be close here. Pee-wee's going to beat them all with a mighty run. Pee-wee swamps them on the line, and Pee-wee's 1.5 lengths the noble comment. Ahead of
Oh, what a fabulous Tuesday.
This is Foster's Fabulous Tuesday, the day that stops a nation. Foster's sponsorship of the Melbourne Cup, Australia's most famous sporting event, began with the first $1 Million Cup in 1985. It is certainly fitting that those two national treasures, Foster's Lager and the Melbourne Cup, are now together as a highlight of the Australian sporting year. So please enjoy this collection of the history of our great race that happens on Foster's Fabulous Tuesday. This fabulous Tuesday. I've been trying to work out exactly what it is that makes the Melbourne Cup the race that stops a nation. Well, let's face it, it's a top quality handicap with high stake money and lots of prestige. But there are lots of races in Australia that offer all that. In fact, some clubs keep increasing the stake money in order to topple the race as the most prestigious event in the country. But they can't do it. They can't rob the Melbourne Cup of its heartbeat that brings a hush to the nation and a lump to the throat and a quickening of the pulse. What is it? Is it the gambling? Is it the fashion? Is it the mystique of the favourites like Farlap and Peter Pan and Light Fingers? The heroes like Bart Cummings, Higgins and White? Is it the romance of the battler or the hard luck story? Is it the New Zealand invasion that used to seem as cheeky as our raid on the America's Cup? What is it? Over the next couple of hours, we'll try to analyse just what that something is. But I can safely say this. It's not any one of those things. It's all of them. And more. For some people, it means chicken and champagne in the members' car park. For others, the gentlemen in their formal livery and the ladies in exclusive outfits, hoping it doesn't rain, It's the break of a very busy week. It can be a fancy dress party. Then there's the pomp, the pageantry, and the punk. On a more serious note, eager punters wager thousands of dollars, and the once-a-year participant hopes to earn a few dollars without relying on skill. And what's the denominator for this colourful collage which brings the silver tails and the swinging set together shoulder to shoulder for an afternoon of merriment? A horse race. Not just any horse race, though. It has to be special when its effect is felt from Parliament to Perth, from courthouses to Charleville, in prisons and in Proserpine, in warehouses and in Wellington. It is a race in which all Australia and New Zealand becomes involved. And even the people who take scant interest in the matters of the turf know about this race. They're not necessarily guided by the form of the horse. It may be a colour they crave, or lucky numbers, or even a dream, just so long as they can say that they too were involved. And it's a very proud boast to be able to say you picked the winner, whatever the reason. The diehards and the greenhorns are all equal when Australia holds its breath for about 3 minutes and 20 seconds at 2:40 p.m. when the broadcasters say they're off. The place, here at Flemington. The race, the cup, the Melbourne Cup. It takes months of meticulous planning and patient preparation before the horses parade on Cup Day. It revolves around dawn in a world of cotton wool, bandages and warm rugs. Gimlet-eyed trainers know when they click their stopwatches at the end of a gallop that fractions of a second can mean the difference between winning and losing. And a horse has to be perfectly tuned to tackle the testing journey. This is the grassroots of the Cup campaign, and it doesn't have to be at Flemington. It could be a track anywhere in Australia or in a paddock in New Zealand. The scene is far and away from the hurly-burly and glamour of race day. It's a twilight world, away from the public gaze. Yes, it's places like this where Cup campaigns start months before the race, as horses pound for mile after mile to produce legs of steel that will feel no pain at the end of that 3,200 metres on the first Tuesday in November. This is the start of the home straight at famous Flemington, 500 metres. Now remember, they've already travelled 2,700 metres in the Cup, and at this stage of the race, many of the inexperienced jockeys think they've got a good chance of winning. But just have a look what confronts them. 500 metres gruelling run to the winning post, long enough for several football fields, nearly 25 cricket pitches, and it takes a horse of superior conditioning and a jockey of great strength of mind and body to get first to the post in the world's greatest 2-mile handicap. This is the famous Flemington clock tower. It's about 140 metres from the winning post, but all the great jockeys know how many strides it is away. The complexion of Melbourne Cups changed drastically here. Remember in 1983, Kiwi was only 7th or 8th, but he ran on strongly to get up and win. Yes, the Flemington clock tower, less than 10 seconds from making history. And this is the man who knows better than any other what is required to win. Trainer Bart Cummings, dubbed the Cups King. Cummings, who trained a record 7 winners of the race, was first involved with it in 1950.
Cup Day, colours bright and hopes high in the saddling paddock, with 6 Chiquita and 20 the favourite Alistair, carrying the confidence of thousands on the way to the post. Get your glasses, for here they go, 26 thoroughbreds off in the big 2 miles. It's easy to see Comic Court about a dozen horses out, racing to a good position with Saxonian moving up smartly alongside. It's Comic Court in front, with Saxonian on the outside, and you can see the white feet of Bruin racing up. Watch halfway down the field for the long, thin blaze of Playboy, number 5, coming out of the bunch. Keep your eye on Playboy, because he runs into really bad luck in a moment. Saxonian in front from Playboy, with Comic Court easing back as they approach the post for the first time, with Benvolo close to Playboy in 4th place. But as they pass the post, watch Playboy, still with the leaders, go up in the air. His heels galloped on, he drops right back through the field. As they make the turn, the white bridle of Indian Chief is prominent. Comic Court noses into the straight from Benvolio, with Hoyle running third and Indian Chief next. Now watch for the sensational fall as they come to the 2 furlongs. Keep your eye on the extreme left-hand side of the picture, and you'll see Gold Bar fall, followed by Indian Chief. They're down, and the tail of the field has a miraculous escape. Comic Court is still in front, and Benvolio seems to have a mortgage on second place. The 25-to-1 shot is led into a great ovation. On a dead track with top weight, he broke not only the Melbourne Cup record, but the Australasian record as well. Leading Adelaide jockey Pat Glennon got the mount when Purtell switched to Alistair. But as slow motion shows, he handles the horse with masterly style. Just a flick of the whip and he puts it away.
Yeah, I was a bright young lad then. Anyway, yeah, Dad trained Comic Court. I used to groom the horse, and that was a great thrill. He led all the way pretty well, certainly from about the last mile, and run a record. Pat Glennon rode him. I think he won by 2 lengths, and I thought that was terrific. So I thought I'd like to do it myself one day, but didn't expect to do it so often.
15 years later, Cummings was back there in his own right, winning with the plucky little mare Light Fingers. And for good measure, he provided the runner-up, Zaima.
Well, that was the biggest thrill of my training career, and because naturally winning the first was something you just dream about, winning it, and I thought, well, there, I've done it. It's terrific.
Cummings has dominated the race ever since, and it's little wonder he's the trainer many people follow. What has put him on this pedestal?
I was lucky enough to get a couple of well-bred New Zealand horses and get Roy Higgins to help as rider. He's a great judge and a big help in training, judgment in training. And I think you need a good jockey as well as a good horse. And I've always had pretty good staff and good supporters behind me and the owners. So I've been a bit lucky in my life. The media build-up at Flemington here before the Melbourne Cup was probably greater than anywhere, any major carnival, racing carnival anywhere in the world. That was Vincent O'Brien's wife was out here a couple of seasons back, and she couldn't believe the media reporting and the television and so on that really takes place here on the morning and on the final gallops before the Cup. But I always believe that the horse doesn't know it's a Melbourne Cup. He just wants 3 meals a day and normal routine work, and I like to think that I don't change my routine because it's a Melbourne Cup, just go straight through, and I think that's stood me in good stead over the years, because you feel a lot of horses, you see a lot of horses working faster before a major race and quicker times than they do any other time, and it's taken them out of the normal pattern of training, and I've tried to just remain calm enough not to alter it, and I think that's probably helped me a lot.
And what about those 2 or 3 minutes after you've won the Melbourne Cup and you know shortly the cup's going to be filled with champagne?
Well, that's the headache start from there on.
About 4,000 people travelled by road, rail and riverboat for the Flemington meeting on November the 7th, 1861, a Thursday. There are only 4 races on the card, with the feature event being a 2-mile handicap staged by the Victorian Turf Club. They called the race the Melbourne Cup, on the recommendation of committeeman Captain Robert Standish, who wanted to get away from running races similar to those staged by the rival Victoria Jockey Club. Amazingly, the first winner, Archer, was walked from Nowra in New South Wales to Melbourne to keep his appointment at Flemington.
Archer was one of 17 runners and he romped home by 6 lengths. Despite the winning margin, it took him 3 minutes and 52 seconds to cover the distance. Maybe it was the long walk beforehand which took the edge off him, but it was the slowest time ever recorded for a Melbourne Cup. The following year, Archer lumped 10 stone 2 pounds for a more convincing win, this time by 8 lengths, and the weight he carried is still the second highest by a winner. There was to be a connection with Archer's hometown of Nowra in another cup more than 100 years later. It happened like this in 78.
Here comes Taxan around them, 4 deep into 3rd place, followed by Jury. Drumshambo hard-ridden and Boldness looking for somewhere to go on the outside. They were followed further back. R1, he's come into it quickly from Big Skipper trying to get out. Then came Our Big Gamble, Thompson angling for a rails run on So-Called, but well back, and Panamint pulled 10 wide. Taxan went to the lead in the straight with boldness with 400 to go. They're in front of Valadero, and here's Carew from the rear, and So-Called trying to thread his way through the field. Coming at them also is Dandelief. R1 gets the split. Boldness took the lead. R1 raced to him now with Carew the outside. R1 just the leader. Carew trying to peg him back from Boldness. Then So-Called and Dandelief. But it's R1 in front near the cup. Dandelief getting through in the centre, but R1 the outside has won the cup about a neck to Dandelief. A neck away third.
Yes, R1 was the hero that day. His connection with Archer? R1, spelt backwards, is Nara. Archer won successive cups, which has been achieved only on 3 other occasions, and he started his trainer, Etienne de Maistre, on the road to Melbourne Cup fame. For when it comes to discussing trainers in the race, 2 men stand out, de Maistre and Bart Cummings. De Maistre won 3 more cups after Archer's dual successes, with Tim Whiffler in 1867, Chester in 1877, and Calamia the following year. Bart Cummings, in the eyes of former jockey Roy Higgins, is a genius.
In the 20-odd years, or not quite 20 years, that I was associated with that man, never ever ceased to amaze me how he could prepare a horse, start some 3 months in advance, and come that time of that big race, that horse seemed to reach its peak at a given deadline. And a man has to be a genius to be able to do that.
A leggy filly stole the limelight on the Saturday before Cummings won his first cup in 1965. English model Jean Shrimpton was a clear winner in the Fashion Stakes, creating a sensation and something of a scandal in her miniskirt. Where were her gloves and a hat? And no stockings either, but I don't think many men were concerned. 3 days later, it was Light Finger's turn to make the front pages. She'd been under a cloud with a previous shoulder injury received in the Caulfield Stakes. Punters watched anxiously to see if she was fit, and this is where the real genius of Cummings came through.
The most memorable part of that race would have been the last, probably 400 metres. Big Zaima had had a lovely run. He was beautifully ridden by Miller that year, and Johnny had set sail for home, and I'd come out of the pack, and I was conceding him probably 1.5 lengths, nearly 2 lengths. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you know, is her condition going to hold out? Do I have a go at him now or wait as long as I possibly can? And Zaima was strong at that point. He was travelling well. So I said it was do or die. We got to about the 300-metre mark, and I pulled the whip, and I said, well, this is it, Mum. We're either... I used to call her Mother, you know, so I used to idolise her. And it probably hurt me more than it was hurting Light Fingers, but I rode her so hard in the last 300-odd metres. Always in my mind, because she used to work a lot with Zaima, and in the track work, if she could ever get the better of Zaima, he wouldn't go on with it. He was a funny big horse, and it's in the back of my mind, if I can only get to him where he can see me on the outside, he might throw the sponge in. And those last dying 50, 60 metres of that race, I threw everything at her. And those last 2 bounds, when I said, well, here's the winning post, where that was probably half a head behind Zaima. And I just went bang, bang, and she just put that little head out, and she threw herself at the winning post. That was probably one of the most courageous horses I think I could ever have put my leg across.
At the 6, Yangtze 1 length in front of Jovial Knight, Hunting Horn on the outside, and Tobin Bronze on the rails 4th. 1.5 lengths to Prince Grant, 2 lengths to Zima and Light Fingers together. 1.5 lengths Strauss, followed then on the outside by Zingalee, going around them quickly. Matlock, oh, there's a fall in the cup, there's 2 or 3 down, there's horses everywhere. River Seine is one, I think Boarhead's another, and Matlock's gone. Matlock's the other one that fell. They come down past the 4.5, Yangtze in front. Jovial Knight tackling it for the lead. Zingalee 3 wide. Tobin Bronze in on the fence from Prince Grant. They were followed by Zima at the head of the others. Strauss trying to push through. Then Light Fingers, Prince Camilo coming around them on the outside. As they swing around the corner now and sail away, pulled away from the fence. The leader into the straight, Yangtze. Tobin Bronze has tackled him from Zingalee, Prince Grant. Here's Zima getting through with Midlander. Sail away under the whip. And then Prince Camilo and Red William. At the 2, it's Yangtze in front, tackled by Tobin Bronze. Here comes Zima and Light Fingers on the outside, joining in from Midlander and Prince Grant. 1.5 furlongs to go, and Zima's hit the front. Light Fingers under the whip, trying to run him down from Yangtze, Midlander, and then Tobin Bronze and Prince Grant. It's Zima in front. Lightfingers throwing out a desperate challenge. Zima out a neck in front. Lightfingers pegging him back. Lightfingers goes to Zima. They hit the line locked together. Dead heat.
Lightfingers got the photo, and only one horse stood in the way of her winning the following year, stablemate Galilee.
Well, he was a champion. I think he's a champion 1.5 to 2 mile, and in that period of 10-year decade he was racing, I don't think his horse could compare with him over 1.5 or 2 mile, and he was too good for Lightfingers at the weights.
Classic race of the year, because over 82,000 persons wait for the start of the 2-miler. Only 22 horses faced the barriers this year, but it was one of the widest betting races in the history of the big race. And believe me, this is 0 hour as the horses leave the birdcage, and believe me, again, the tension is electric. About 3 furlongs out, and Terrific still the leader, tackled now by Duo, and then a gap the Lightfingers, they're followed by Avenium, but well in the straight end, Terrific is gone, where Duo momentarily had gone to the lead, tackled now by Lightfingers, then Avenium, forcing a passage on the rail, and on the outside, the South Australian stayer Galilee, rapidly setting sail after them. Look at Galilee go. Galilee had gone to the front, halfway down the straight, holding Lightfingers, Duo, and Avenium at bay, and it's all Galilee. Galilee a big winner over Lightfingers, third home Duo. Ah, yes. $62,000 for the winner Galilee, but in addition, race history will show the South Australian stayer one of the immortals of the sport of kings. The presentation of the trophy by the Governor-General Lord Casey, and believe me, Galilee, winner of the Melbourne Cup of 1966, goes down in history.
Cummings made it a hat-trick the following year with the buff-headed Red-Handed.
Onto the course proper, Foreman led about a length to Blue Special. Chapaki, Midlander on the fence, padded away. Then Garson trapped a bit wide on the track. Stella Bell and Swift Peter in behind them with Special Reward. Then Volition caught very wide, followed then by General Command and Sun Haven. Back near the inside is Red Crest with Prince Camillo. Then about a length to Red-Handed. On its outside, Stella Bell and also Royal Coral. Prince Camillo's now gone back to nearly last with Coronation Cadet and Taunton. Down to the judge the first time, Blue Special in front. Near the 5, and Garson the leader, about 3 lengths to Midlander, doing it well, a length and a half.
In the back of my mind, I had a perfectly trained horse going to that race. That Cummings polish was there, the timing was immaculate. He trained that horse from the day of the Caulfield Cup to walk out onto the great Flemington racetrack at 3 o'clock on the first Tuesday in November. And he walked onto that track a very proud and happy horse and a very confident jockey sitting on his back. And I really do think the reason that horse won was the combination of those two things.
Wide Zima, here's Red Crest on the outside, padded away looking for a run up on the inside, and General Command badly interfered with, and then Floodbird. At the furlong and a half, Red-Handed's taken the lead from Volition on the outside. Red Crest coming through on the inside now is padded away. It's Red Crest just got his head in front at the furlong from Red-Handed, fighting back. On the fences, padded away, and now Floodbird having to change courses, finishing fast. Red-Handed, a narrow leader from Red Crest, padded away. Floodbird pegging them back, but Red-Handed's too good. He's won the cup and next to Red Crest.
After Red-Handed's victory, there was to be a 7-year drought before Cummings bounced back with Think Big in 1974 and 1975. But more of that later. Cummings went 1 clear of Etienne de Mestre's record this way in 1977.
900 to go in the cup, and Sir Serene whipped around them to take over by about a length now. In second place, Major Till out after him from Happy Union, and here's Family of Man and Vacuum eased off the fence from Hyperno. Unaware going all right next from Masuk and Salamander. Hard ridden, locked in on the fence from Ming Dynasty, Wave King. Golden Black slowly responding.
I thought he was a certainty in the Melbourne Cup, even though it was a Melbourne Cup. It's hard to get a certainty, but I thought he was past the pace because the horse had done everything right and trained so well. And as Bart Cummings is the Cup Kings, and he certainly knows what day the first Tuesday in November is. And that's exactly how he has his horses.
Strides down the outside. Reckless is trying to follow him, but Golden Black swept to the lead with 300 to go in the cup. Reckless is going to be the challenger. Golden Black in front with Reckless out after him from Hyperno and Unaware. Reckless tackling Golden Black. Golden Black a neck in front. Reckless is pegging him back, but Golden Black hanging on to the lead. And it's the Favourites Cup. Golden Black's 1.5 lengths to Reckless.
2 years later, it was Cummings again. Win number 7.
1 length to Magistrate, and then Hyperno pull to the outside from Ken Karma. Cubicade boxed up badly. Next license fee, Worry Symbol struggling at the head of the others from Ico, Earthquake, Magoon, and further back is Somerset Nile. They're closing on the leaders. 800 out in the cup, Safra.
It was quite a good field,
and not being 100% sure how High Perno was going to race, because he had a reputation of being a rogue sort of horse. But he went out there and was on his best behaviour and won the race. And I've got to admit, he was probably one of the most gamest horses that I ever did ride, High Perno. Salamander and him fought it out tooth and nail for the last furlong and a half, head and head. And if anything, High Perno was a little bit underdone for that 2-mile race.
Salamander, and on the outside is High Perno. Here's Cubicade with a powerful run from Worry Symbol. It's Red Nose and Salamander together at the 200. On the outside, High Perno and Salamander going stride for stride from Red Nose. Salamander ahead in front. High Perno's grabbing him. They go to the post together. High Perno, if anything's won at a nose to Salamander. Third Red Nose.
4 other trainers have also left an indelible mark on the Cup, with 4 winners apiece. John Tate, Walter Higginbotham, Dick Bradfield and James Scobie.
The win by Batali in 1923 was one of Scobie's greatest training feats. The 5-year-old had a most unorthodox Cups preparation. Batali wasn't a strong horse, so Scobie didn't race him for 6 months before the Cup. But he knew what he was doing. Batali's stablemate was King in Goda, the winner of the Cup the previous year. Batali was consistently beating him in track work. So with only 7 stone to carry, Scobie considered him a certainty, and the horse started 4-1 favourite and won in record time. Watch him win through what was then the revolutionary technique of slow motion. (1924). Times haven't changed in some things. The motorcade is still the impressive way of bringing dignitaries to the racecourse, the state governor and his party. This was the year when 4 prominent racing men were disqualified over the running of the horse Purser, and as a consequence, all their horses were barred, including the pre-post favourite for the Cup, Heroic. Secretary, Mr. Byron Moore, whose beard looks as if it's been squared off with hedge clippers. And so to the race, which was to see one of the most remarkable efforts in the history of the Cup. The pack stand watched in amazement as Standby took his place in the field. He'd not been able to put his weight on his hind leg before the race, but heavily bandaged and after feverish treatment, he not only started, but failed by a mere head to win the race. The win by Backwood gave trainer Dick Bradfield his 4th Cup. (1939). A remarkable achievement when the battler Harry Bamber became the only breeder, owner, trainer to win the Melbourne Cup. And now we pick up the race call of one of our earliest broadcasters, Jim Carroll.
As they run along the 3 furlong post at 3 from home, the leader is still Gilltown, with leg long alongside of him. Bowmead very prompt on the outside, Tampa also him. Racing along to the 2 furlong post, Gilltown still holds pride of place in the race. And Catalog getting a run through on the inside is rapidly going down the lead. But he stopped and nearly fell over. Whilst on the outside, the red has come into the picture. Furlong and a half from home, Rivet and Bowmead are battling for the lead. But shortly afterwards, the red dashed into the front, whilst Tampa is finishing fast on the outside. Half furlong from home, Rivet is just holding the lead. And down the outside is Mackay finishing on like a tiger. The rider of Mackay is challenging the red, but near the post, the red on the whip is holding Mackay off, and will win whilst Restorator is finishing fast. Past the post, the red just beats Mackay, whilst Restorator might have beaten the
As Rivette cruised to the lead, the crowd started to cheer, but suddenly hushed as the head of another runner poked in front of Rivette. The jockey drew his whip for the first time in the race, but quickly realised it was the riderless Ortel Star. Rivette became the first mare to win the Caulfield Melbourne Cups double. Other trainers to have left their mark on the Melbourne Cup were Frank McGrath, who scored with the 3-year-old colt Prince Foot in 1909, and another 3-year-old, the outstanding Peter Pan, in 1932. In 1934, McGrath made it 3 cups when Peter Pan lumped 9 stone 10 on an extremely heavy track to win by 3 lengths. One of New Zealand's leading trainers, Jack Fryer, trained the first of his 2 cup winners, Wotan, in 1936. Wotan had been a disappointment in Australia as a 3-year-old and went into the cup as a 4-year-old at cricket score odds. It was 5 years after Wotan that Skipton, a son of the 1935 cup winner Marabou, gave Fryer his 2nd win. In modern times, George Hanlon, a highly respected trainer of stayers, has also produced 2 cup winners. In 1972, the long shot Piping Lane in the first metric Melbourne Cup, and in 78, the well-fancied Arwok.
Australia's most successful trainer, Tommy Smith, has won the race twice. First this way in 1955 with Topperoa.
Well, the horses are in the bird cage, and leading them out is the champion of champions from New Zealand, Rising Fast. And there's Ray Ribbon, runner-up in the Caulfield Cup. And Topperoa, another fancied Maori Lander. On the turn into the straight in the Melbourne Cup, and Ray Ribbon was the leader, but was almost immediately joined by Topperoa, with Devonfield going great guns and Rising Fast coming with a withering run. Sir William is next, followed by Gay Rennick, El Cruiser and Red Craze. Near the line, Topperoa had shaken Ray Ribbon off, but now Williamson calls on the top weight, and Rising Fast is straining every muscle. Under the whip, Topperoa is holding him at bay. Williamson riding desperately on Rising Fast, but he can't make it, and it's Topperoa's Cup. It's Topperoa first, Rising Fast second, Sir William third. Topperoa, winner of a race worth £15,000 in prize money, also landed a small fortune in bets. And hats off to Rising Fast, gallant in defeats. He suffered badly in a mighty rough race. The New Zealanders were all over the Aussie hay-burners this year, have been for a lot of years, it seems to me. Neville Selwood has landed his 2nd Melbourne Cup. His previous win was on Delta. The Governor-General has the cup for owner N.H. MacDonald, and congratulations for Selwood. Ugly Duckling Topperoa has had 115 starts, and this is only his 7th win.
In 1981, Smith won his 2nd Melbourne Cup with Just a Dash.
Next is Just a Dash, and they were followed by Coiro Trelay. Kingston Town's back 10th and about 6 wide, trying to make ground. Deck the Hall struggling, and Harwan threading his way into the picture. On the turn, Flashing Light led a length. Our Paddy Boys got out. From Magistrate, and Mr. Cromwell makes a line of 4. Hyperno on the outside is next, and further back is Deck the Halls. El Lorena trying to get out, and then No Peer under the whip. It's Our Paddy Boy in front of the 300 with Just a Dash, the challenger. Then Flashing Light beaten, El Lorena running on. Hyperno under the whip, No Peer can't win, and Kingston Town's going to nearly run last. But Just a Dash sprinted to the lead. 200 to go, and Just a Dash raced away from El Lorena, Our Paddy Boy, Hyperno. And in the run home, Just a Dash is surprised. It's won by 2.5 thanks to El Lorena. Flashing Light might have come. The jockeys come to attention, and they're racing. Port Carling and Kingston Town first out from Noble Comment to the roar of the crowd. LA Bijou away quickly, going up towards the lead, and Carringbush showing pace wider out with Rose and Thistle. Gala Mascot is handy in about 7th, placing 2. They were followed by Brewery Boy. Triumphal March is stuck out wide, and Thompson trying to get across somewhere. And Mysa Raven and Tohar and Dealer's Choice settle down at the rear. Onto the course proper, Gala Mascot, Noble Comet and Carringbush, and they're crawling. Kingston Town's angling towards the rails, now in 4th placing, and gets it.
The following year, Smith looked all over a winner again when his champion black Kingston Town, ridden by Malcolm Johnson, kicked well clear soon after straightening. But 7 strides from the line, he was grabbed by Mick Dittman on Gurner's Lane.
Coming to the home turn, I suppose he was a bit better than midfield, but then from that point to about 300 metres out, he was just held up a shade. He couldn't get quite a clear run, and I had to switch back inside, and that's when I interfered with Port Carling. And once he got through on the fence, there was a big gap, and the only horse that to beat at that particular time was Kingston Town. He had a commanding break.
Noble Comment, and they were followed by Brewery Boy, Carringbush and Triumphal March the centre. Here's Astral in coming into it, and Port Carling getting out. Noble Comment and Kingston Town, who's under the whip of the leaders, are coming up them on the outside now is Avon Valley. Next is Astral in, and Port Carling. Kingston Town in front of the 200. A length to Noble Comment. Gurner's Lane getting a split now. Kingston Town in front. Gurner's Lane flying on the inside. He's coming home like a train. Kingston Town joined by Gurner's Lane, and Gurner's Lane gets up to win the cup. And next to Kingston Town.
third noble comment from my Sir Avon Bianco lady.
People who never bet are apt to break the rule on Cup Day. But they probably prefer to call it a bit of a flutter. And there's a lot of big betting associated with the race Australia-wide. A conservative estimate of the amount wagered on the Cup alone is $65 million. Bookmakers add a lot of colour to the excitement on Cup Day. Bookmakers such as Mark Reed.
Yes, well, having worked in the Cup when I formerly was working in Melbourne on about, I think, 7 or 8 occasions, of that there was 4 or 5 times when I was on the rails, gradually my turnover increased with each year and I was getting more and more of the marketplace, especially with the influx of overseas and interstate visitors. And that particular race each year, I'd hold more money on the other race of the year. So you lay bets in that race, or be prepared to take bets to lose in the vicinity of 300, 400,000 on one horse, so, which is very uncommon now, the race of the year. I remember one day when Hyperna won the Melbourne Cup, I liked him myself, and I hadn't laid him much, and I had a book worth about 300,000, of which he only took out 200, of which he only took out 25, and the last bit I laid was 250,000 to 30,000. Which is written while the horse was in the barrier stalls, and so what was going to be a big winner turned out to be a loser.
The Caulfield Melbourne Cups double is always a keen betting medium. Leading doubles bookmaker John Attridge recalls one coup that almost came off.
In those days, there was the doyen of all doubles bookmakers was a gentleman called Chris Jenkins, and I remember once that Chris was very heavily involved with a horse called Allsop. When Big Flu won the first leg of the Cup that year, one punter had to collect a lot of money. And he appeared at the races at Flemington on McKinnon Stakes Day, the Saturday, and he said to Chris Jenkins, look, he said, I and a friend have got to get a lot of money off you and other doubles bookmakers. He said, and I'd like to make you aware that we will be at the Victorian Club on the Wednesday after the Melbourne Cup to collect the $1.5 million that was collated, was owed to these 2 punters. And he said, I'll be there, I'll want cash, but I'll have my own security guard.
And this is how close they came to collecting that $1.5 million. Allsop just fails.
Half furlong left to go. Allsop and Rainlover. Rainlover and Allsop. They're going head and head. Rainlover on the inside. Rainlover's got his neck in front and won by a neck. Second Allsop.
Of course, there have been other big losers too, like big punter Darcy Eccles, whose story is told by former VRC handicapper Kevin Ryan.
The 1920s probably saw him at his peak, and at that time he had a private trainer and stables and a home right opposite the Caulfield Racecourse where the members' car park now is. And in 1922 he had a horse called the Cypher in the Melbourne Cup, and he backed it for 65,000, but unfortunately it ran second to King and Gator. The next year he had Stair in the Caulfield Cup, and Stair had won the Toorak Handicap on the Saturday, was a pretty good horse and was favourite in the Caulfield Cup. But on the night before that race, Squizzy Taylor, either himself or through his people he arranged to do it, burnt down the grandstand at Caulfield, which was right opposite where Stair was stabled. Stair went berserk, was completely upset, and on the following day, carrying Darcy's money, ran last in the Caulfield Cup. So by that time, all the good things had gone. Darcy had lost the house and the stables, and he was just one of a lot of people who were interested in racing, trying to do his best. In 1932, he'd had hold of a horse called Sleepyhead, but he didn't think there was much future with a horse named Sleepyhead, so he changed the name to Yaramba. And I can still hear Eric Wells saying, Yaramba has won it, Yaramba has won it.
Well, let's see if Yaramba did win it for Darcy.
Making a turn into the straight near the 3, and it looks as though Induna and Rogilla are together about a length. And it's about the 2 furlong post. There's little between Induna and moving up well on the rails, Bo Nilly, and then Rogilla and Peter Pan coming into it. Oh, Yaramba will bolt in. He's come round the outside of the field and looks to have them all well beaten. Yaramba wins it all right. He's coming away from Peter Pan, who's finishing on a bit strongly. Now Peter Pan might get there. It's going to Peter Pan will win it. Peter Pan will win it. Peter Pan wins from Yaramba with Shadow King third.
Poor Darcy. Peter Pan, ridden by Billy Duncan, finished too strongly.
So Darcy was at the bottom of the barrel once again. In 1937, he had this horse called the Trump. He'd had rather an inglorious record of racing. He'd won only a couple of races. In the previous season, he'd won 1 out of 7. But he was weighted in the Melbourne Cup, I think, for around about 7-8 for memory. And he was to have his first race at Moonee Valley. Darcy had no money, but got round among some friends, got £100. And at that time in Melbourne, there was a doctor who was well known for his betting, but he only was interested in horses at 33 to 1 or 50 to 1. Consequently, the bookies loved him. Darcy was wise enough to give the doctor the 100, and he got the 33 to 1, and home came the Trump. A little while after, they put it in at Caulfield, and it won again. Then it went into the Toorak handicap, and it won again. And all this time, Darcy was just doubling up. There were people who said he didn't see the races. He was too busy getting on with the bookmakers. They came to the Toorak, which he won, and then he went into the Caulfield Cup, and he won that race. So then he went on to the McKinnon Stakes at Flemington and won that, and then he, with Darcy still buttering up, and then he went into the Melbourne Cup and won that.
The start for the Melbourne Cup of 1937 has begun. And now when the horses settle down into stride, the Trump nearest the rails is very prominent. The Trump began very fast and is at the top of the field when they've settled down into stride. But Sir Regent began very badly and has lost considerable ground. And now as they settle down at the end of about a furlong and a half, Hewer has worked his way across from the outside. He's over on the rails and he's near the head of the field, with also close Andy Roy's step and John Wilkes who's pulling hard. Tapestry on the outside is also prominent. Marler finishing about a length behind Tapestry. Now as they turn into the straight, Sarshri got a run on the inside, and Sarshri is the leader. Hewer ran off the course and lost a lot of ground. On the inside, Willie Wynn is battling on, and so is Silver Standard. In the centre of the course, John Wilkes is making an effort, and also further out, Alunga's putting in a fast run. Now as they run to about the furlong post, Willie Wynn has challenged Archery. Silver Standard's coming through, and the Trump is getting a run on the inside. The Trump is dashing through, and the Trump is challenging Willie Wynn and Sarchery. Within the shadow of the post, the Trump is finishing like a shot out of a gun, and the Trump gets up and beats Sarchery and Willie Wynn. Fourth is Alunga, then follows Don Astor. Gay Knight, John Wilkes, Silver Standard, both down through.
And that was a record of 6 wins on end, which brought Darcy a fabulous amount of money, had the bookmakers reeling, and everybody was wondering how they were going to get settlement. But from then on, the saga of the Trump began to change. They had their downs, and unfortunately, over a period of years, Darcy lost all that money and died in a home for poor people.
It's Olympic year Cup Day and 90,000 people pack Flemington. They come by every kind of conveyance and they're not going to miss a moment of it. Well, that guy with the ladder's not anyway, because he's bringing his own grandstand. Red Craze is a hot favourite at 7 to 4. And the lad with the ladder is obviously going to back Evening Peel. He should get to the top.
The owners of the game-staying mare Evening Peel faced a betting dilemma in 1956. They believed that Evening Peel would win the Caulfield Cup and Red Craze the Melbourne Cup. And that's the way they backed the double. As we all know now, they got it wrong. Red Craze won the Caulfield Cup and Evening Peel the Melbourne. Nearly 30 years later, they're probably still kicking themselves.
Sailor's Guide, Emphatic, Carana, and a lot of other hopefuls. Our boy's picked his posse, and he'll get as good a view as anyone on the course. That's if he keeps it. Well, it won't be long now, customers. And they're racing in the Melbourne Cup. A good deal of crowding towards the inside and rising fast. One of the best to begin. Bounced out in front of Mananui, followed by Fighting Force, who got away well. Carana and Sunnium are showing out soon after the start, and so is Evening Peel. But now Honey Flow's in front with a lead of a length and a half over pushover. They're followed by Sir William, Tricky Lad and Storm Glow. Then a gap to Carana, followed by Prince Delville, rising fast next on the rails from Evening Peel. At the head of the others, Ray Ribbon, and then a gap to Pandy Sun, Sailor's Guide, and Big Red is last. Anyone's race from this point on, but already the big crowd are calling for Ward to make his run on Red Craze. In the straight, Sir William is the leader. He showed out clear of Harnham Hill, with Carana putting in his claim, followed by Sunnium, Fighting Force, Prince Delville. Then Red Craze about 8th on the corner. You can pick him by the white breastplate, white out on the outside. Now Sir William is joined by Prince Delville, Harnham Hill, and then Carana finishing brilliantly. At the distance, Carana in front from Evening Peel. But look at Red Craze finishing at 100 miles an hour. It's Red Craze, Carana and Evening Peel, and Evening Peel wins the cup from Red Craze. Third is Carana. Evening Peel, his 10 bob certainly come off. You know, full honours to the winner, Evening Peel, but Red Craze was gallant in defeat. 10 Stone 3 failed to stop him, but his great finishing run came too late. Another 10 yards might have told a different story. 30-year-old George Podmore had his 5th ride in a Melbourne Cup. This is the first time he's landed the bacon.
And I'll let you into a little secret about betting on the Cup. Statistics show you should stay clear of the favourite. Only 18 favourites have won since the turn of the century. The Victoria Derby is run on the Saturday before the Melbourne Cup. And there's one person who watches the 3-year-old classic more intently than anyone else. Victoria Racing Club handicapper Jim Bowler.
Bowler, 34, is the youngest metropolitan handicapper in Australia, taking over from Kevin Ryan, who weighted his first Melbourne Cup in 1960. The Cup weights are issued in the last week of July, and of the 500-odd hopefuls entered in 1984, only 24 can start.
The Victoria Derby is the first serious test for the 3-year-olds of the year, being the next season's 4-year-olds. And it's at that stage that you start seriously looking at the Melbourne Cup. From the Derby in Victoria, they go on to Western Australia, then on to the feature races in Sydney, and also the New Zealand 3-year-olds start to warm up at that time. As far as the older horses go, history shows that from one Melbourne Cup to another, you know at least half the field will be entered for the following Cup. But you're looking to acquaint yourself with the young horse, what level you feel that he's at, will he go on, will he improve, how he handles himself in the race. And it's that first impression that is the lasting one. History is very enlightening in terms of the Melbourne Cup, of course, because the race has always been run at the same time, over the same distance, at the same course. But I think you've got to take it on face value that they are only facts and figures. Times change, horses change, levels change from one year to the other. So whilst it's in the background of your mind, the primary source for handicapping the Melbourne Cup is the current season.
Moves into line, and they're off. White Nose in the centre was about the best to begin from Shadow King, and Farlap showing up on the outside. Racing down the straight the first time, Shadow King led. Look at the crowd going across on the flats to watch the horses come around the home turn. After they've gone a furlong and a half, White Nose moves up on the rails and takes the lead from Elkman and Shadow King. Farlap is showing up on the outside, coming towards the course.
1931 saw a win for White Nose. But runner-up Shadow King must have been a handicapper's delight. He started in no less than 6 Melbourne Cups and was placed in 4 of them.
White Nose is anxious to go fast, but his rider restrains him, and White Nose leads from Elkman with Shadow King and Carry On next. Farlap is 5th on the outside, only cantering. Passing the stand for the first time, White Nose is going easily ahead of Elkman and Carry On. Shadow King is next, and then Farlap still pulling very hard. Pace is strapped on as they go towards the turn out of the straight, and White Nose streaks away from Elkman and leads Elkman and Carry On. Shadow King is next, and then Farlap still wide out. Farlap is covering a lot of extra ground as they make the turn out of the straight. Excitement grew as the field rounded the home turn, where White Nose led from Elkman. Concentrate moved up smartly on the outside, and at this stage Farlap was well beaten. He dropped right back. White Nose led into the straight from Elkman. Concentrate commenced a powerful run on the outside, and Carry On was also prominent. Shadow King moved through on the rails. 2 furlongs to go. White Nose is well clear of Concentrate, who's rapidly catching him. Concentrate is coming fast after White Nose over the last bit, and he gets right up alongside White Nose, but immediately weakens, and White Nose goes away again. Concentrate is under the whip, and here comes Shadow King on the outside and Carry On. Shadow King is catching Concentrate, and White Nose wins clearly, but Shadow King just gets up and beats Concentrate for second.
Over Flemington's famous course, we get a wonderful bird's-eye view of where Australia's great classic is run. It was round this noted circuit that Carbine made immortal turf history 40 years ago. The huge public stand was not there in those days, nor the host of cars parked nearby. But the thrilling straight down which the field is so soon to thunder remains unchanged, providing one of the world's finest stages for speed and endurance. From near and far come the excited crowds, for the Melbourne Cup is on.
It's 1933. The crowds literally poured onto the Flemington racecourse. Many had come to see their old favourite, Shadow King, but he was a 33-1 chance running in his 4th Melbourne Cup with Scobie Breesley in the saddle. Favourite for the race was Regilla, ridden by Darby Munro, starting at 5-2.
As the barrier rises, 18 horses leap into action. And another race for the famous Melbourne Cup is on. They come onto the course proper, and Flail is in front now from Shadow King, with Metallurgy close up next, and then Green Horn. Topical holds his position on the rails. Next is Hallmark, closely followed by Peter Jackson and Gain Carrington. And they come on towards the stands the first time, with Flail and Metallurgy making the running. Just behind them comes Topical, Greenhorn and Shadow King all in line. After a gap is Hallmark, and then Gain Carrington and Metallurgy. Going past the mile, Flail and Metallurgy are still the leaders. Close up behind them, making up his ground now, is Topical running third, and then comes Shadow King. After a gap, Greenhorn, followed by Hallmark, getting a run there on the rails, running into 5th position. They swing round the turn into the straight. Flail is the first to head for home from Shadow King, with Gain Carrington coming very fast on the outside. And when they settle down in the straight, there is little between Flail and Gain Carrington, who now goes to the front. And coming on towards the finish, Gain Carrington is in front of Hallmark, who's unwinding a magnificent run. Gain Carrington and Hallmark have singled out towards the finish. Hallmark takes the lead from Gain Carrington, with Shadow King next. Going on to the finish, Shadow King is coming fast, and Topical is forcing his way through on the rails. It's a magnificent race between Gain Carrington, Hallmark and Topical. Hallmark is receiving a magnificent ovation from the crowd as he returns victorious after his wonderful Melbourne Cup triumph. The crowd, estimated at 108,000, is the largest in 10 years.
In 1935, Shadow King made his 6th and final appearance, and even though carrying saddlecloth number 7, he was allowed to lead the horses out onto the track, ahead of champions like Peter Pan and Hallmark.
First out on the track is the 10-year-old Shadow King, who is making his 6th attempt to win Australia's greatest race. Already he has been in the placings 4 times, and there's life in the old fellow yet. In the straight, Sarchery is still fighting to hold the lead, but the gallant mare is passed, first by Silverdale and then by Marabou. The favourite has made a brilliant dash round the outside, and now he stretches out for the finish. Nothing has a chance with Marabou in the run to the winning post, and the Melbourne Cup's as good as over. Sarchery again passes Silverdale, but that's the best she can do. And Marabou wins easily from Sarchery, with Silverdale third. Marabou's victory is popular for more than one reason. He was favourite, and his jockey Keith Boitry is the idol of Victorian racegoers. With the presentation of the Rich Trophy, the curtain comes down on the 1935 Melbourne Cup.
There's a real pot of gold at the end of the 3,200 metres for the winning jockey.
In 1985, the winning jockey Pat Hyland received his percentage of the first $1 million Melbourne Cup. For the first time, the Cup was sponsored, thus enabling the VRC to raise the stake to $1 million. In a history-making move, the Cup was called the Foster's Melbourne Cup, being sponsored by the Victorian-based brewing company Carlton and United. But there was another reason that the 1985 Cup was special. The visit of Prince Charles and Princess Diana marked the first time that the royal family was represented at the event, and a very popular visit it was. The race itself was an open affair, with the rain-affected track bringing many horses into contention. The 1984 winner Black Knight was back to try again, and the New Zealanders were there in force with contenders like the 1983 winner Kiwi, Koiro Corrie May and Our Boyfriend. But it was to be a very important day for one Patrick Thomas Hyland, veteran Melbourne jockey who had had many major race successes, but never the big one. A truly magnificent ride saw Hyland steer the New Zealand-bred stayer What a Nuisance to a narrow victory. Look for What a Nuisance in the blue, white armbands and cap.
As they went to the 1600 halfway, Our Boyfriend in front by a length, the Rising Prince. 1-2 Coroyo, Corrie May and a half to Butternut. 2.5 Lack of Reason. 3 lengths to Feeder Awar and then Under Oath. And there followed further back Tristark on the inside. On its outside is Black Knight and Dusky Legend, a length to Sir Zephyr. 2-2 on the outside of them, Silver Award, and there followed by Dwanette's Girl, a length Tripsicum. Then Fox Seal, What a Nuisance, a length Our Sophia, 20 off the lead. Then I'm a Prince, Hey I Wonder, Mapley Heights, pull to the outside. There followed 2 lengths away by Sprightly Native Late Show and 3 lengths to Kiwi Lart. 1,100 to go in the Cup. The leader, Our Boyfriend. 1 length, the Rising Prince. 1.5 lengths Koiro, Corrie May and Butternut. 2 lengths to Lack of Reason on the outside of Feeder Awar. 1 to Black Knight getting forward from Sir Zephyr. On the outside, Under Oath, a length to Tristark looking for a run from Silver Award, Dusky Legend. Then Tripsicum, Our Sophia still back about 17th, and Kiwi 2 lengths last with Late Show in front of it. On the turn, 6.50 to go. Our Boyfriend, a length, Rising Prince. 1 away came Butternut, Coiro, Corrie May from Lack of Reason, Under Oath. Then Dusky Legend to the outside. Tristark trying to get a run. Black Knight badly squeezed up, and Kiwi going to the inside. In the straight, Our Boyfriend the leader. Rising Prince is gone. Our Boyfriend kicked 2 in front of Butternut, Coiro, Corrie May. Feeder Awar's running on, and what a nuisance, getting out with a good run. Tripsicum is coming home well on the outside. Tristark is next. Our Sophia a long way back with Kiwi on the rails. 200 to go, and Butternut and Coiro, Corrie May got to Our Boyfriend. What a nuisance coming at them. Here's Tripsicum with a late run, but might be too late. What a nuisance, and Coiro, Corrie May. They're headed together. What a nuisance, won the Cup. A nose to Coiro, Corrie May. I think Tripsicum might have got third in front of Feeder Awar.
For Highland, a magic moment. He'd come back from an almost crippling race fall some 12 months earlier to win the race on a broken-down horse for his long-time friend, owner Lloyd Williams. The horse was patiently prepared for the race by Epsom trainer John Marr, and the presentation by Prince Charles was a memorable one.
I've been trying to persuade the chairman that the Cup should be gently foaming with Fosters when it is presented, but it seems that most of the supplies are in Britain at the moment. I would very much like to congratulate the owners of What a Nuisance on a really magnificent success, particularly when you consider that the horse was originally meant to be a jumper. I'd also congratulate the rider, Mr. Pat Hyland, who is, of course, one of Australia's most accomplished jockeys.
For Lloyd Williams, it was his second Melbourne Cup success, having been a part owner of Just a Dash in 1981.
Words fail me for what I'd like to say about the connections of this horse. John Marr took this horse over. He was broken down after the Sydney Cup. He had a back injury, a suspensory, in April 1984. Here we are in 1985, and he's won the Melbourne Cup.
For Highland, one of the sport's most respected jockeys, it was a dream come true.
I won the first Foster's Caulfield Cup. Now to win the first Foster's $1 Million Cup. I'm sure that God can't be really that much better to me, because this has been probably the most emotional day of my life. But I'd like to thank my wife, who's been always by my side and given me a great kick up all the way through my life. And also to my children at home, your prayers were answered, kids. Thank you very much.
Highland showed just how important a jockey can be to a Melbourne Cup success. The jockey who shares the record with Bobby Lewis for having ridden the most Cup winners is one of the most relaxed men on a racecourse, according to Bart Cummings.
I have to wake Harry White up in the jockey's room at times. Roy Higgins is pretty relaxed, but knew where he was going, and Gauchi, he's a pretty relaxed sort of a fellow. Marshall's pretty calm. Most of the jockeys I've had, with the exception of Johnny Letts, he's a live wire, but he's had a Melbourne Cup success. He's a great rider and a champion jockey, but he's the exception. He's the only hustle, bustle, lively fellow I know that's been so successful.
Like most in the racing game, Harry White likes to get away from it occasionally. And when he does, he visits his farm and one of the most distinguished hacks in the world. Think Big, only the fourth horse to win the Melbourne Cup twice. And here's one of racing's tender cameos. Think Big, in his old age, lovingly cared for by the jockey to whom he gave so much. This remarkable champion, once full of fire and steel, is now gentle enough for Harry's young son to ride.
All set and they're off and running. Towers Bulba down near the inside was one of the first to get out with our Pocket, who began very, very fast, and so did Passatrul, showing pace. Leilani began like a flash, and already she's crossing over towards the inside into a bit of posse. And wider out is Herminia, who got out fast, and so did High Sail, zooming up on the outside in search of the lead. The feature of the first 200 metres was a fantastic ride by Cook to get Leilani into a good posse.
Well, look, I'd been disappointed with him in the Moonee Valley Cup, and I said to Bart, I said, oh, I better look for another ride. This horse is going very, very ordinary. He said, you stick with him. He said, look, he said, I guarantee you in 10 days' time on Cup Day, he'll be wanting to ride him. He'll be right on the day. And then he ran him in the Hotham Stakes, it was called in those days, the Hotham Handicap, which he won. And I was going through the field, a couple of days before the Cup, and I boiled it down to that I was 1 in 5 of the main chances.
Onto the front, the bolter, moving up on the outside to have a crack at it as Pass of Tool, Gala Supreme and Igloo are still nice and handy as they start to run around the turn, where Sequester is the leader. Battle Heights has worked its way up into the picture very quickly, and they're followed closely on the outside by Igloo as they make the turn into the straight, and look at them come from everywhere. Battle Heights is up going for the lead now. On the outside, coming out to have a crack at it is Igloo. Leilani is looking for a run between them, will need it. And here comes Captain Perry down the outside, and Turf Cutter. Turf Cutter is mowing grass. Battle Heights went to the front of the 200-metre mark from Leilani. Captain Perry on the outside then is Turf Cutter and Think Big. Leilani is getting to Battle Heights, and on the outside, Captain Perry. Leilani just in front. Think Big is picking it up down the outside, and Think Big has got up to win the Cup. Think Big has won. Leilani is second.
It was more of a shock than anything that I really won my first Cup. I just couldn't believe it. I was standing there talking to people normal, and it never really hit me that I'd actually won that race probably for a week later.
Think Big took a while to hit form again. To be precise, it was 12 months. But it was in the race that mattered most that he came back to his top form, the Cup of 1975.
I was really confident of him winning that race. He was so fit and so well. I was riding him work even the morning of the race, and he was just absolutely perfect. And I was so keen on his chances that I was even walking the course, because it was a wet year, to see, and he'd Think Big had run last in the McKinnon Stakes on a heavy track 2 days prior. And I went home and had a sleep. And I thought, oh well, the weather's all right. I reckon he'll handle this, you know, it was okay. By the time we got to the races, the clouds opened up and it bursted. Rain came down, and it became a real boggy track, and he had 9.3 to carry, and I knew he didn't like it, and I said, well, he's probably got no chance now. So I just went and had a bit of a lay down in the there's a side room off the jockey's room. I went and had a lay down and actually fell asleep, and you know, wasn't no chance at all winning, I didn't think. And the doctor there came and woke me up. He said, you in this race? I said, yeah, well, I'm in this race. And he thought I said I'd win the race. He went out and backed it, so everyone was happy. And but he was running about way back how he used to always race. At about 1,000 to go, I was sticking on the rail, and I got the persuader out and give him about 3 good whacks, and he started to travel.
To the corner, 600 out in the Cup, Medici and Contier from Gay Master and Calypso. Suleiman's on the rails looking for a run, and then Tara's Bulba. Fury's Order behind them with Chelsea Tower and Guest Star trying to get through. In the straight they race now, and Medici took over again. He's a length and a half clear now from Contier, who's gone. Under the whip now, Suleiman's out after him, and so too is Think Big along the rails. Wider out then is Four Leaf and Fury's Order struggling. It's Think Big getting up to Medici at the 200. Suleiman is struggling, followed by Holiday Wagon. It's Think Big taking the lead in the Cup. He's drawn a length in front of Medici. Holiday Wagon next. Suleiman can't go on. But Captain Fairy's running on well, but Think Big is in front, and Think Big's going to win it 2 years in succession. A length to Holiday Wagon.
They were the first of 4 Cup wins that made Harry White the joint record holder. The third was Arwan, trained by George Hanlon.
Actually, I was up at the farm when George the phone rang. Would you want to ride Arwan in the Cup? And I couldn't believe it. The opportunity again. And I said, yeah, that'll be right. Just so close to the race to get a favourite ride like that. So I jumped on him in the McKinnon Stakes, and he ran a terrific close 4th in the race with carrying weight for age, and he was dropping down to about 50 kilos 2 days later. And I said to George that this is as confident as you could be going into a big race of winning it. You know, and it was no surprise that I won the race. I really expected him to win it.
White's luck continued the following year on Hyperno. It was a heart-thumping finish. Hyperno scoring in a photo by a short half head from Salamander.
It took a long while, and I was happy to see number 2 go up in the frame, and I just threw the cap and whip up in the air and couldn't believe that I actually won 4 cups, and I said to myself, well, this is my race. That's how I felt, you know, really terrific about winning it 4 times. I just couldn't believe it, and I just hope it can continue on. I can get that record of 5.
Bobby Lewis, the co-record holder with White, was successful in 1902 on the Victory, and then 13 years later in 1915 on Petrobus. People needed a winner. It was the year of Gallipoli. The war was going badly. Lewis only got the ride because the regular jockey was unable to make the weight. For Oman punters, Lewis was having his 19th ride in the Cup, and Petrobus carried number 19 saddlecloth. Why didn't everybody think of that? But that's racing. Lewis won again on Artilleryman in 1919 and Trival in 1927. 4 winners to the great jockey, Bobby Lewis. 1959, and Roy Higgins, who has won the Cup twice, considers himself unlucky not to have scored on his first ride in the race in that year. He could have ridden McDougall, but stuck with White Hills, trained by close friend Fred Silcock.
Around about the 800-metre mark, I was sitting on the outside of my good old buddy Jeff Lane, the golden boy of those days, and his mount wasn't travelling well at all. It had run its race, but I was travelling very well and had a very good run in the race, and my confidence was starting to stir up a little bit, because here I am with half a mile to go, or 800 metres to go, and I'm still in the race with a big chance. And just to that incident, Jeff sensed a bit of trouble in front of him, and he turned to me and said, "Come on, buddy, we're getting out of here." And he just turned his mount sideways and headed me out. I'd finish up about 6, 7, 8 horses out, and behind a row of very slow conveyances. They weren't travelling at all. So I'm trying to look away to get back in or get round them. And as I looked over, a big bay horse just went whoosh, straight through the middle. It turned out to be a horse called McDougall with P. Glennon on it.
At the furlong, Trellios and Travel Boy from Grangarry, and McDougall getting a run through is pegging them back at every stride, and then White Hills. McDougall races to the leaders at the 100-yard mark, gets to the front now from Trellios. Here's Nethergold, and White Hills finishing well from Grangarry, but McDougall's going to win the Cup from Nethergold. White Hills ahead away third, then Grangarry, Trellios.
McDougall, New Zealand bred, was ridden by Pat Glennon. But 6 years later, Higgins got there on light fingers, and then 2 years later on red-handed, even though he believes a rival jockey should have nearly beaten him.
It was very unfortunate. Ronnie Taylor, his rider, he used to get him out of the stable of a morning, Red Crest, and bring him down, walk him for a while, work him and take him home. Now, Ronnie was only having 1 ride every morning, and that is a very gruelling test for a jockey, that Melbourne Cup. Not only the tension, but it is a race where the jockey must be fitter than the horse. And I do really feel that whether Red Crest went into the race underdone or not, I can assure you that Ronnie Taylor, his rider, was certainly underdone for that race, because Ron, he started to fall down on the horse's neck in that last 100-odd metres, and being just a fraction in front of me, I could detect this, and that adrenaline, the old adrenaline started to pump again. I said, "Come on, matey, we can get back to him, get back to him."
Now we watch this slow motion and you'll notice Higgins headed by Taylor on Red Crest. But Taylor seems tired. Higgins senses this and drives red-handed to the line. 2 final desperate attempts now by jockey Ron Taylor. Who knows? Perhaps Higgins was right.
87,000 people at Flemington for Cup Day, and they're racing in the 1963 Cup with Conference Tattooer, Ningen Summer Regent the favourite, and River Seine best to begin. Baroda Gleam and Garum got away well, with Alpensea going fast on the outside of some time. Marchant well positioned from Maidenhead, but Arctic Star is well back. Settling fully into stride, there was little between Alpensea and Baroda Gleam, and they're battling for supremacy, nicely clear of Battle Standard. Now pulling hard on the rails from Marchant, Garum, River Seine and Ennis well positioned. Summer Regent had lost his position from Welkin Prince Homesteader, and then a gap to Straight Irish and Gallerus in behind that bunch.
Jimmy Johnson was often referred to as a lion tamer because of his extravagant whip action. But his win-at-all-costs attitude saw him score 3 times in the Cup. The first of these wins in 1963 on Gattam Gattam.
But soon after, they travel past the 3 and come down near to the turn, where Baroda Gleam continue to make play in front from Battle Standard. Here's Gattam Gattam taken to the outside, finishing brilliantly. Summer Region is gone. A lump and sometime coming into the picture from Grand Prince, and Maidenhead now starting to finish well at the furlong pole. And Jimmy Johnson said, let's go on Gattam Gattam, had drawn clear, but a lump and Grand Prince are issuing big challenges on the outside. But Gattam Gattam under pressure is safely holding the New Zealander, a lump and the Melbourne horse Grand Prince at bay. And Gattam Gattam is too good and wins the Cup from a lump and Grand Prince. They're followed by Marchant, Prince Regoli, Maidenhead, King Cobbler, then sometime.
In 1968, Johnson was offered the ride on Rain Lover.
And I said yes, I'll take the ride on him. I had one ride on him before the Melbourne Cup, and he ran a very good race and ran 4th. And I thought, oh, well, he's going to be hard to beat.
You can see that the horses are starting to pull a bit here. Here's still Palatial, 2 lengths to Nana Tail, then Fleur, and that in the light colours is Rain Lover running 5th on the outside. Back behind them about a length away is Red Livorno, who's nicely positioned at this stage of the race with Belhome and Star. And Impetus was handy. He's in the white with the black sleeves. You can see there quite clearly. And back behind him is Rad tucked in on the rails. They were followed by Ariosto being hard ridden on the outside, and Galilee is with him. On the inside, Savoy number 8, and then Fans number 9 on the fence, and that's Sandy's Hope on the outside of it at this stage. Swift General is next. That's LeBay on the inside, number 24. Dharma Star is the one behind it, and Dignify is last of all. They go up now past the 9 and heading towards the milepost. And here Precedent taken on by Palatial past the 7. They've clapped on the speed out about 4 lengths to Nana Tail. There's Precedent on the rails, Palatial on the outside going to the 6. Nana Tail bridging the gap 3rd, and Rain Lover travelling beautifully on the outside 4th, and Fleur on the rails from Belhome and Star. Now that's Impetus. Just got its head in the picture, 1 out from the fence, white with black sleeves and cap. Watch it, it's going to nearly fall in a moment. It's on the outside of Red Livorno, and there's Galilee on the outside of it again coming into the picture. Now watch Impetus. Here's the trouble coming. There he is, up in the air, down. The rider's nearly gone, but he gets back. But it puts paid to his chances as he drops through the field at the half-mile post.
And coming around the corner, it was just like being in a supercharged car and putting it into another gear. You couldn't credit that a horse at the end of 2 mile that he could just sprint home the way that horse did. Straightening up for home, I was so confident that, as I say, like putting him into another gear, away he went in 1 by 8 lengths.
Inside the 2 now, and Johnson has shot Rain Lover away. He's 4 lengths in front. He's going right on with the job. Fleur struggling, and they're followed then by Lowland. Here's Fans coming down the outside, but it's Rain Lover. Johnson riding hard at the furlong. He sees his 2nd Melbourne Cup in sight, and the South Australian going right on with the job is well clear. Rain Lover at 7-1 gives Jimmy Johnson his 2nd Melbourne Cup win. Fleur 2nd at 20s, Fans 3rd at 12-1.
So much for number 2. The next year, Rain Lover back again, carrying 9 stone 7.
Well, there you are. That's the 3 of them. And, well, I suppose out of those 3, that was such a big thrill to me, because leading up to the race with Rain Lover again, Rain Lover hadn't been racing all that well, and I was copping all the flack and saying, well, they should change the jockey and they should do this and should do that. And when that 3rd one passed the line, I was really on top of the world that day.
Johnson employed similar tactics in Rain Lover's 2nd Cup by taking off a long way from home, worrying everyone connected with the horse, but not for long.
When I went past the Chiquita Lodge, he really took off the same position he did in 68. I thought, well, he's going to, he's setting him a task, but he knows what he's doing, like a great rider. But when they went past the trainer stand, the little lad I had strapping the horse, Jim Morrison, I think it was, I said, well, it's not bad to win one and run 2nd. And that's the way it looked at Allsop, 24-pound difference in weight. And, it was just sort of got to him, but never got past him. When they go away from you, I thought, well, he's going to run him down. But Jimmy just threw everything at him, and
when he came back, he said if it had been much further, he would have had his head down on the grass.
Down the side, 4.5 to go. It's a packing field in the Cup, and the leader, Sir Kinsman, about 3 parts of a length in front of Rain Lover and Fleur. They've both grabbed this leader. 3 across the track, 2 lengths to Whizcan moving up. General Command on the fence. Coming around the home turn now, 2.5 furlongs to go. And Shades of 1968, Rain Lover dashed to the front. Coming down towards the 2, and the crowd roared. Rain Lover in front. Allsoppers moving up on the outside the challenge, and they're followed closely then by Swift General Fleur. In behind them, Trails now pulled out, and he's coming home reasonably well only. Allsop moved up on the outside to tackle Rain Lover. They're clear of Trails, who can't win. He can't stay. A half furlong left to go. Allsop and Rain Lover. Rain Lover and Allsop. They're going head and head. Rain Lover on the inside. Rain Lover's got his neck in front and won by a neck. Second Allsop. Third Ben Lomond. Fourth...
Great judgment and tenacity shown by Jimmy Johnson. 1969 was also the year of the sensational doping and late withdrawal of Big Faloo, who was taken out by the stewards only minutes before the parade started. Rain Lover was owned by Mr. Clifford Reed, who also won the Melbourne Cup in 1945 with Rainbird, ridden by Billy Cook.
As the big field goes to the post for the 1945 Melbourne Cup, we take this opportunity of reminding you that you see the film in fast time through the cooperation of Army Amenities and RAF Welfare. The Air Force flew the film to Sydney, where it was developed and printed in 2 hours, with other planes standing by to rush the prints on to forward areas. This is Jack Davey handing over to ABC's commentator Jim Carroll for his description of the race.
They're off now. And first to jump into his bridle with St. Fairy on the inside. St. Fairy was the first to lead. War Eagle began well and is close to St. Fairy, whilst Rainbird and also Euxine are very well positioned also. And Silverlink, coming across from the outside, has also got a nice position, so also is Immediate. Now when they settle down at the end of about a furlong, Immediate is the leader. Immediate just in advance at the moment, whilst Leonard on the inside is nicely placed. And about a length and a half further back is Cable News, and Cable News is followed by Flight on the outside. And on the inside is now Russia, followed by St. Fairy. On the outside, Silverlink, and a length and a half further back is now travelling along nicely too, Oatcake. And just in front of Oatcake is Viva. At the moment, it's Queen Midas, Logical, and Great Victory in the last 3. As they turn along to the judges' box for the first time, Immediate is the leader. Immediate's advantage being about 3 lengths over Cable News. Leonard in third place, then follows Flight. Next on the outside, Valcurl, followed by Russia and Silverlink. Then Leonard Euxine and Rainbird, and also Grampian. They're followed by Viva Oatcake. Next is Punctiliar and Space, followed by War Eagle rather, and the last a lot, Logical and Queen Midas. Now they're past the 3 furlongs post, and they're rounding the bend to face up for home. Immediate, who's led throughout, is still in charge. And as they come along to the 2 furlong post, on the inside, Leonard is closest to him, whilst Flight is also showing prominently, so is Valcurl, and Silverlink on the outside putting in his run. They're followed a length and a half further back by Rainbird, who's also making a run, and on the outside, as they come along to the furlong and a half post, the leader is Leonard. A length and a half further back now is Silverlink. Rainbird on the outside is shot to the front. Rainbird has taken the lead, and Rainbird under the whip is defying the opposition. And Rainbird is going to go past the post, a winner from Silverlink. In third place might have been St. Ferry, then Leonard, followed by Russia on the inside, Oatcake, and Great Victory.
Thank you, Jim Carroll. Well, that was great news for some, but others are chewing the rag properly. Now we show you that final few hundred yards in slow motion. In detail, we see how the South Australian mare Rainbird took charge of the race, leaving behind Silverlink, who beats Leonard to second place. At the end of the 2 grueling miles, Rainbird's light weight of 7.7 helps Billy Cook to bring off a superb piece of horsemanship and carry his mount to victory in the time of 3:24.5. So crack New South Wales jockey Billy Cook went to Melbourne to send the coveted cup to South Australia. Well, blokes in Borneo, boys at Bougainville, Raff at Rabaul, and the mob at Maratai, let's hope you're home soon backing all the winners about the place. Hi-ho, everybody, and the higher, the better.
Great jockey Billy Cook also won the race 4 years earlier on Skipton. It was wartime. Once again, people sought relief from the worries of war on the racetrack. You could bet for 2 bob in those days. There's Derby Munro, riding Beauvite, the favourite. No, Derby, not this time. This is Skipton's Cup. Another Omen tip, the 13th horse to complete the Derby Cup double and carrying number 13 saddlecloth. The race is on. The field comes to the home turn.
The leaders with a tremendous burst and is hailed the winner. But here comes Skipton. Almost laughed out of the straight, unheard of early. He is now unwinding the dazzling finish of a real champion. Dashing up on the outside, he cuts down horse after horse until he got Son of Horus. Bo Beat can't give any more. The Son of Horus is giving everything he has, but the Son of Marabou is too much for them. Gibson skips home with a 7,500-pound handicap for his lady owner. Son of Horus is second, with Bo Beat 3/4 of a length away third. Let's slow motion analyze the finish. It only serves to make the superiority of the unlikely starter more marked. Gibson is a good 2.5 lengths clear, and while Son of Horus hangs on gamely, Munro on Bo Beat puts away his whip. The Melbourne Cup is over. Dozens fainted in the heat earlier in the afternoon, but after the finish, the heavens opened and cascaded a deluge. It poured on the poor punters. Most of them were all wet before it started anyway.
Billy Cook is the father of Peter Cook, who won on Just a Dash in 1981.
No assessment of Cup riders would be complete without Jack Purtell, one of Australia's all-time great jockeys. Purtell, who became a steward before retiring, scored 3 Cup victories.
His first in 1947 on Haraji.
Flags fly at Flemington for a national occasion, the Melbourne Cup Carnival, which makes all Australia hold its breath in excitement and suspense. You can feel the tension on Derby Day. Voices start to get hoarse. Sweep holders only want to start. Hunters chew over the weighty problem, others just chew. Any tips I let slip are obvious. There's plenty of gayness in the open air where turf kings walk and style queens talk. This is a good idea, a sweet chime, and all she needs is a conductor. Catterbag with no clutter. Feet trim for Miss Prim. Hats, the Val Curl special, curling off the brow. And this is a beau gem of a hairdo. El Senor favors the grey topper, and there are many others who have a lashio at the revived masculine style. Much more orthodox is Prime Minister Chifley. But on Cup Day, when the 30 runners parade in the saddling paddock, Melbourne weather has set in, with wind and rain turning the occasion into an umbrella cup. Number 3, the proven stayer Val Curl with Williamson up. Number 12, Haraji with J. Purtell in the saddle. Number 5, Proctor, well fancied, and rain is falling as the field goes to the post. Tense moment as the thoroughbreds face the barrier for the 2-mile classic. From a very even start, Gayness moves over to take up the running on the rails and is one of the first to show out, while King's Walk moves up to the leaders. As they come onto the course proper, Royal Scott is the leader from Gayness. Haraji, the grey with the checks, is now lying about 6th on the rails, and Chanak is going up into a good position. On the outside of Chanak is Banneret, followed by Emberlita and Star of India. Then there's a well-bunched field behind them, including Proctor, going for a run on the rails, followed by Dark Man. Now Kerry Ladd is moving up on the outside to take the lead from Royal Scott, with Open Air 3rd. Haraji with the checks is now lying about 5th on the rails. In the centre of the bunch is Good Idea, Robert Bruce and Catterbag. Next, further back, Sir Actor, followed by Faunus, Glamour Star, with Miss Prim in last place as they go out of the street. As they come round the turn, Royal Scott is in charge from Red Fury, Gayness, Haraji and Proctor with Fresh Boy wide out. In the straight, Red Fury has Royal Scott beaten, but the grey Haraji is making his run 3 horses out, with Proctor lying 5th. Royal Scott drops out and Fresh Boy's unwinding his great run. A furlong from home, Haraji seems to have no opposition, but here comes Fresh Boy wide out, going great guns. Fresh Boy cut in on the rails, but fails to catch Haraji. Red Fury 3rd, Proctor 4th, then Royal Scott, Conductor, Catterbag, Amelia and Gayness. Haraji, you little beauty. A slow motion repeat shows the contrasting riding styles of the first 2 jockeys. Purtell balanced well forward and riding with hands and heels. The apprentice Eames sitting back and laying on the whip as he cuts in behind Haraji to finish along the rails half a length away from the winner. Number 12, Haraji, 30, Fresh Boy, 29, Red Fury, in the big money for the Melbourne Cup of 1947. Haraji, the first grey to win since 1865. A grey day is a great day for the grey.
It was 1953. Only 10 months before his success on Wadella, Purtell suffered a serious fall in a race at Caulfield, and for a time his life was in danger. The big crowd appreciated his courage in coming back to the saddle. Wadella won from Most Regal and My Hero. They were the same 3 horses who filled the placings in the Caulfield Cup of that year, but not in the same order.
And Wadella wins from Most Regal with My Hero 3rd. 4th a neck away is Earl Deming Hydrogen, Lord Forest.
Rising Fast gave Jack Purtell his 2nd successive win in the Cup and his 3rd win overall in 1954.
What a crowd it is. The stand's jam-packed and people still arriving a few minutes before the Cup actually starts. The bookies know names Rising Fast and Master Proven pretty well by now. They ought to. They're riding them once every second. But in the Cup, everyone has a fancy, so even the outsiders are supported. Admiral Sir John Collins shows that the Navy's in Melbourne as usual, and the fleet's not the only thing out of mothballs. But the men by no means have their own way when it comes to millinery. It's almost 3:15. All Australia stops work. And with the huge crowd tensed and expectant, let's cross for a description of this world-famous race to Australia's leading racing broadcaster, Ken Howard.
Thank you very much, John. This is Ken Howard, privileged to bring you the broadcast of the great race. It's the bleakest day in Cup history, and even the horses look cold as they parade in the birdcage. There goes the top weight Rising Fast with jockey Purtell hoping to gather in his third Melbourne Cup, and he's followed out by Advocate, Sunnish and Electro. You know, it's blowing a half gale as they parade the Newmarket Straight on the way to the starting barrier. There's an enthusiast. He's put his shirt down on Master Proven. Now, that's what I call a punter. But you should have put it on Rising Fast, son. They're at the barrier, and they're racing in the Melbourne Cup. Rising Fast near the fence, lost 2 lengths at Barrier Rise, and Socorro, one of the best to begin, bounced out in front of Ted Rami, followed by Captain Hunter and Surprise Ending. Rising Fast going up quickly with Half Past, then Master Proven. Hellion at the head of the others, followed by Tototara, then Prince Delville, who got away well, followed by Commodore. Advocate is in behind that bunch, followed by King Amana, and then a gap to Frescott and Ribera dropping out the last. The beaten favourite in the Derby, Prince Delville, is in front in the straight the first time, just clear of Tototara. A length further away, Master Proven, followed by Spearfolio Hellion. Then a gap to Surprise Ending, followed by Gay Gambler. In behind them, Rising Fast, closely followed by Gay Helios and Great Performance. Racing at the camera, 6 furlongs from home.
Because he'd been carrying big weights previous, but naturally enough I was sorry, because he was going to be favourite, and I consider a pretty short price favourite. And you got the task ahead, and I had to get a good position. In my opinion, I didn't want anything coming back on me. I didn't think I could afford to be getting these beaten horses coming back at me, and of course I'd have to go back with them. And again, luckily, I got a good position, and I had a good run right throughout the race.
Into the straight, and the South Australian Pandy Star is in front from Gay Helios, Spearfolio and Rising Fast. Pandy Star is first to weaken, and at the distance, Gay Helios is clear, but Purtell switches the New Zealander, Rising Fast to the outside of Gay Helios and races past him and almost astride. Now Rising Fast comes away from Gay Helios, with Hellion finishing 2 to their 1 wide out in the centre. Rising Fast doing better than Hellion and Gay Helios, and Rising Fast going on strongly wins the Melbourne Cup from Hellion. Gay Helios third, and fourth is Prince Delville. There's a roar of applause for Rising Fast, and jockey Jack Purtell as the winner returns to scale. The great New Zealander is only the 4th horse in history to win the Caulfield and Melbourne Cup double. After this great win, Rising Fast is being called one of the greatest horses ever. It's Purtell's 3rd Melbourne Cup win, and he doesn't look exactly sad about it. The Governor of Victoria, Sir Dallas Brooks, presents the Cup to owner L.R. Spring. Rising Fast cost 325 guineas as a yearling. Yes, it's been a great day for Purtell and a great day for racing. Hey, mister, I told you should have put it down on Rising Fast.
John Letts, a jockey whose ability to ride is only surpassed by his ability to talk.
The 1972 Melbourne Cup, I'll never forget it, because when I went into the barrier, I said to Neville Boyd, he drew alongside me, I said, well, Neville, I said, I think you and I are only here to make up the numbers, and he quite agreed with me, and then I come out and won the greatest race in Australia.
This was Letts' first ride at Flemington, and he'd never laid eyes on the track, let alone this famous landmark, Chiquita Lodge, situated at a vital point about 1,000 metres from the winning post.
And I'd spoken to Harry White before the race, and I said to Harry, you know, it's a hard race to ride in, Harry, and I'd never ridden here before. I said, where would you make your run? And he said, well, when you go past Chiquita Lodge, he said, everybody starts to try and get into a little bit better position about Chiquita Lodge. Well, I went down the back straight of Flemington looking for Chiquita Lodge, which I didn't know was a racing stable, which was about 1 story high, and I was going along the back of Flemington looking for about a 30-story motel called Chiquita Lodge, but it never eventuated. So as soon as I did see Gun Sin make his move, around about 1,000, which I found out after it was 1,000 metres, as soon as Roy went on Gun Sin, I think 10 other jockeys went with him. I think they were all following Gun Sin, and I thought, well, I better join in, so I went with them as well.
Dutch and Dry leading 10 lengths to Altai Khan. A length and a half further back then is Battleground. A couple of lengths further afield to Gala Red and Tea Break. 3 or 4 lengths then to Dark Suit on the inside of Saboli, followed by Piping Lane. Up around the outside of the field is Double Orange, followed by Polestar. Coming out of the pack is Battleground along the fence, and Magnifique has grabbed the leader. And wider out is Double Orange, and here comes Gunsind. At the 250-metre mark, it's Magnifique by a length and a half. The Gunsind, Piping Lane could be the danger. Wider out is Storming Seas and Double Orange. Piping Lane has moved up, got his head in front of Magnifique. Wider out Storming Seas and Gunsind, but Piping Lane has won the money. A boil over, Piping Lane first, Magnifique second, close to third.
After the Tasmanian Piping Lane, it was 8 years, when John Letts was more familiar with the Flemington layout, that he rode his second winner, Belledale Ball. It was owned by international racing magnate Robert Sangster and trained by Colin Hayes. The legendary Derby Munro won 3 cups, the first being on the immortal Peter Pan in 1934.
And Sir Simper is holding his position on the rails too. Straightening up for the run home, Flail on the rails and Regilla are together in front from Nicely and Gippsland. Sir Simper there and Sarcherie too. Peter Pan has come into it now. Peter Pan is flying on the outside. Peter Pan showing the way to Sarcherie, Flail under the whip and Drogilla. Then comes Limbaum finishing on strongly. And Broad Arrow is finishing well too. It looks like Peter Pan will win it. Peter Pan is well clear, about half a furlong from the post, and he'll win it all right. A magnificent victory. Sarcherie is making a determined effort to overcome him, and Limbaum is finishing well too. Peter Pan wins from Sarcherie. Peter Pan is only the second horse in history to have won 2 Melbourne Cups. He carried top weight on a heavy pack and galloped to victory in slashing style. Well done, Peter.
The war was still on in 1944. Derby Munro was engaged to ride Sirius, and the public got right behind him and sent him out a 3-to-1 favourite for the big event.
Now they're coming home with 2 furlong posts, 2 furlongs from home. Sirius still the leader. Sirius has gone out with a lead of a length and a half. In second place, Clayton dropping back. Cellini's moved up and past Clayton. A length and a half further makes Peter on the outside, and also Claudette doing well, and Huntingdale on the inside. And as they move along to the furlong and a half post, Sirius is well clear. Under the whip, Peter on the outside has thrown out a challenge. On the inside, Cellini is dying. Claudette finishing on. Sirius has been ridden for dear life to stall off Peter's challenge. Sirius is holding Peter at bay. It's going to be a battle right to the post, but Munro looks like having it. And Munro on Sirius.
Munro took the favourite to the front 3 furlongs from home, and Sirius hung on gamely. 2 years later, Russia brought up his treble.
Now for the Cup. Claudale is a warm favourite with On Target next fancy. Spam is one that has come into last-minute prominence. As the barrier rises, there are a rush to get into good positions. It takes some doing in this tremendous field of 35. Pledget is the first to break the line, followed by Valcol and Russia. Spam, though well away, soon drops to the rear, as does Cordale. It's the charge of the light and heavy brigade as they tear up the straight, but gradually the slow beginners drop back and move closer to the rails. Here we get an idea of what a huge field it really is. There's very little jostling, though. Valcol leads narrowly from Orthodox. Then Russia, showing surprising early speed, followed by Leonard, Star Act, Oatcakes, Denelaus, while Cordale, On Target, Kerry, and Spam are near the rear. There he sit down in front. Now the field bunches up, and as they approach the turn, Earl Mon beats off Valcol. But Munro, timing his run to a nicety, pushes Russia forward on the outside, and in a stride he hits the front. Leonard and Concerto are there, while, well, nearly everyone. Good shot, sir. On target, I should say. There's as much applause for the rider as the horse, and Munro deserves every hand clap. Russia looks as though he'd put a veto on all this fuss. Derby Munro receives the congratulations of their Royal Highnesses, and trainer and part owner Ted Hush receives the cup. History repeats itself, as in 1936, Munro gets a hand clasp from the Duke. In that year, he rode Peter Pan. Today, it is Russia.
The only other rider who'd won the race 3 times was Bill McLaughlin on Prince Foot in 1909, Comedy King in 1910, and Westcourt in 1917. The year is 1958, and the fashions go nautical. With adornments that look like jellyfish, and fishermen's nets, and dried sponges, and coral.
During the Melbourne Cup, well, I thought I'd trail Monte Carlo because Jack Thompson, he'd had ridden the race a lot more than what I had, and I just tacked on to Monte Carlo and I trailed him all the way, and
We had a lovely run right through, and of course I challenged him about a furlong out and went on to win.
With Monte Carlo, also now Baystone putting in a good run, followed by Humber Hawk and Yeaman desperately ridden. At the 2 furlongs post, White Hills in front with Red Pine, Monte Carlo and Baystone challenging him strongly. Yeaman finishing fast but a long way back. Monte Carlo hits the front at the furlong with Baystone, and they're fighting the cup out from Red Pine. Baystone gets the head in front of Monte Carlo, Red Pine third, and then White Hills from Yeaman. But Baystone's finishing too well in the cup for Monte Carlo, and Baystone's going to win the Melbourne Cup from Monte Carlo. Red Pine
Baystone had overcome 2 hoodoos. The first, he had number 7 Saddlecloth, and number 7 had never won the cup. And the second, he was allotted stall 13 in the birdcage. But a jubilant Mel Shoemaker wasn't going to be worried by hoodoos.
They're all set to go in the Melbourne Cup, and they're off and running. A great shuffle down near the inside. Medaway was one of the first to get going, getting out very fast as Diana, and going quickly as Brugan in the early part, searching for the lead, and Strike again with his splashing white feet on the off-white colours of the club. Putting the glasses towards the outside, there goes Audacity veering across. Gala Supreme got out well, followed by Landlover. It's Audacity taking possession of the rails, a length and a half to Australasia, who's throwing his head up in the air. That's not going to do him any good. Up on the outside, Strike again. In behind them, Daneson, Gala Supreme, followed by Red Hope, Brugan.
Jockey Frank Reyes, whose career was wrecked by injury and ill health, was out of the saddle for 10 months, leading up to Gala Supreme's win in 1973. One of 10 children, Frank Reyes was much loved by the racing public. Watch this ride as we spotlight Reyes and Gala Supreme as the field turns into the straight.
Wall of horses across the track. Audacity leads into the straight from Gala Red. Mr. Expensive is wider out and down the outside now as Dane Son with a big run. And here comes the king of the Kiwis, Glen Gowan. Glen Gowan is racing out after these leaders, where Dane Son got to the front now. Down the outside, Glen Gowan is gathering him in, and they're followed by Gala Red. And Golden Sam is coming fast, and so is Gala Supreme. It's Dane Son tackled by Gala Supreme and Glen Gowan. Glen Gowan, Gala Supreme, they hit the line. Photo, Gala Supreme by a nose to Glen Gowan. A hit away third was Dane Son.
Reyes died in 1984 after a long illness, but trainer Ray Hutchins will never forget how he felt when his little mate won.
Well, it was just it, you know. It was a bit hard to take, but it was lovely after it. You know, you were stunned after winning the Melbourne Cup. Oh, it took a long time to come back, but when I seen the little fellow return to scale, it was really something.
One winner of the Melbourne Cup stands out well above the rest. Even though he was bred in New Zealand, he didn't race there and was quickly adopted as an Australian horse. He was by night raid out of the mare Entreaty and cost a paltry 160 guineas. The horse, who was to become known as the Red Terror, was distinctively marked, with 2 hind white fetlocks and black spots on the thighs. But the man who originally bought him, Mr. David Davis, was not impressed with his looks when the horse arrived in Australia. So he agreed to lease him to battling trainer Harry Telford for 3 years. Little did Mr. Davis know what he was signing away.
It was the time of the Great Depression, and few people could afford to arrive at Flemington in style like this in 1930. The Wall Street crash reverberated throughout Australia. The 2 mainstays of the country's economy, wheat and wool, fell drastically in price. Unemployment spread like a cancer. The Depression shocked a young country. America sneezed, and we caught cold. But the doom and gloom was forgotten on that special Tuesday in November because of one massive horse, Farlap, the Red Terror, who stood a giant 17-1 hands. And he was also head and shoulders above the rest in his deeds, drawing a huge crowd of 80,000 to see the 1930 Cup. That is 80,000 paid. About half that number couldn't afford the admittance price, but they were not to be denied. They watched the Cup from over there on Scotsman's Hill for nothing. But whether you were a paying patron or not, whether you came to the course in a car like this or walked, Big Red put on the show of all shows. He cantered home by 3 lengths to become the only Cup winner to score at odds on. He was certainly the bright spot
for thousands of people in uncertain times.
There was high drama on the Saturday before the Cup. Farlap had been very heavily backed. As he returned from work at Caulfield, gunmen tried to shoot him, but Tommy Woodcock saved him. It was the Saturday morning before the Cup. Farlap was engaged that day in the Melbourne Stakes. He ran and he won. He was then taken to this glorious piece of racing heritage, St Albans Stud at Geelong, 40 miles from Melbourne and owned by VRC committeeman Guy Raymond. Farlap arrived in the dark and in secret. Tommy Woodcock recalls it well.
On the Monday morning, Mr Raymond, we had a gate at the back and we worked him a couple of times round Geelong Walk racecourse Monday morning. And then Tuesday morning I just took him for a walk around his stud. And of course that's when the float was late then to go to the races. It was raining like anything. Or I don't know how late, it took us half an hour to start the float, I suppose. But anyhow, we eventually got there because we had police protection all the way, so, you know, we made it all right. He's a little bit late into the course, but we made it all right. Like the police kept the crowd well away from him because, you know, we had terrible threats with him, what they're going to do. They're going to throw acid in his eyes and one thing and another at the Flemington. But we had good police protection, but the crowd, because he was a crowd lover, Farlap. Everybody loved old Farlap. And of course, as soon as they seen him entering the enclosure, they clapped and cheered. It was wonderful to hear them, the people.
From Barrier Rise, there was never any doubt that he would win. Just look at that stride. And look at the hold Jim Pike has on him. The Cup was only one of 4 great wins for the mighty horse in that week.
Well, he won the Melbourne Stakes quite easy, and then he come out and he won the Melbourne Cup on the Tuesday. And on the Thursday, I'll never forget the day, he come out on the Thursday. And of course, Oaks Day, you know, all the women dressed up. And when I was leading him up in the enclosure, they all stood up in the stand and they cheered him and waved him. And of course, he duly won that. It only 2 miles on the Tuesday and then saddled up 1.5 miles again on the Thursday. It's a great effort. And then on the following Saturday, he saddled him up again the following Saturday, 1.5 miles on the following Saturday. And of course all the crowd loved him that much. They all stood up and cheered and clapped him. And of course when I legged old Jim on, Mr Toffert come out, legged old Jim on him, everybody sang out, "Hungry Harry, Hungry Harry."
Farlap had started in the Cup of 1929, the previous year, as a 3-year-old and finished 3rd. Bobby Lewis was the rider. Farlap was installed as the shortest priced favourite in the history of the Cup to that stage at even money. Now listen, this old film has a soundtrack. For the first time, the sights and sounds of the Cup were recorded. Incidentally, the winner was Night March.
Bobby Lewis, he didn't go very generous for Bobby Lewis. And of course, Bobby stirred him pretty well at the barrier, and of course when he did, he jumped out, and of course he couldn't hold him. He fought him all the way until about the 3 furlong post, and when he let him go to race, he went back in the field, and then he finished on again and ran 3rd in it. But he had a dreadful mouth after, the poor horse. He could hardly eat for 3 or 4 days after his mouth was cut about that much.
In 1931, Big Red was again favourite for the Cup, but Tommy felt the horse was tired and overtrained.
Oh, he didn't think he didn't think he had any chance whatever. He said, you know, he used to worry a lot about the horse, and all he said, he looked down to me and he said, "Son," he said, "I won't knock him about." He said, when he's had enough, he said, "I won't hurt him."
Big Red finished 8th. Before the Cup, Farlap's Connections had accepted an invitation to take on the best horses in the world at Agua Caliente, just over the Mexican border. That race was in March of the following year.
Here's our on.
in the third running of the famous Acrocaliente handicap. Behemoth takes the lead. Everybody's eye follows Farlap, and many a heart beats faster when they find he's in 7th place. But jockey Billy Elliott knows what he's doing. See, it seems it's a quaint Australian custom to keep their horses under cover at the beginning of a race. And then the fireworks. Farlap starts to move those marvelous feet of his, and he passes them all at the back stretch as though they were standing still. And the crowd goes crazy as Reveille Boy makes a gallant challenge at the home stretch. For a moment, they're neck and neck, but Reveille Boy can't take it. Farlap was only loafing. Elliott gives him his head. He settles down to the business of making a race out of it, and it's a walk away. And a new record of 2 minutes, 2 4/5 seconds, and the glorious total of $332,000 worth of winning. It's a great debut for the Australian beauty, Farlap, one of the handsomest horses ever seen on an American track. A little temperamental, but what star isn't? In one race, he's proved himself, and how the fans love it. A real champion and a new racetrack idol.
Farlap was the toast of the world. 16 days later, he was dead.
Early one morning, the horse got a little bit sick. Wasn't that bad. Didn't have much of a temperature, just rising, and the vet come and treated him, and of course, when the day went on a little bit, the horse got worse, and the horse was in terrible pain, and the vet come and just said, "We've got to get another opinion," left me there with a painful dying horse, and not much I could do about it. And when he got that bad, I let him in the box, and he just one merciful squeal and hemorrhaged and died in my arms.
Farewell, Farlap. You have passed the last winning post of all. The great judge has hoisted up your number, and we in the grandstand can only say one thing, the simplest and the proudest thing of all. He was a good horse.
Not only champions win the race, it's had some surprise results at long odds. John Tate, who trained 4 Melbourne Cup winners, saddled up the 100-to-1 Victor the Pearl in 1871. But it's not often that horses at 3 figures win the Cup.
Racing is about millionaires and paupers. It thrives on outrageous fortune. This is Ray Neville, who now works as a carpenter, when he's not riding track work, that is. 40 years ago, he looked a little different when, as a boy from Birchip, his dream of dreams came true.
Morning, I just finished riding weight the morning in the Cup. The boss told me I had to ride in the Cup. Thought it was all right.
Ray Neville was apprenticed to outstanding trainer Lou Robertson. Favoured in that year's Cup was Howe, and the photo finish camera was used for the first time and caused quite a controversy.
Late scratchings have reduced the field to 30 for the big 2 miles. Tense moment as wages totaling millions are in the balance. Number 1, Howe, ridden by Badger, is favourite. 3, Dark Man with Thompson. 7, Red Fury, Briscoe. 17, Comic Court, Unkovich. Every horse a hope for sweep holders everywhere. Races are won and lost at the start. The big moment is at hand. They're off. As the barrier goes up, Ninid near the rails is left, and so is Yamboon wide out. O'Fay on the rails jumps out well, but is quickly headed by white-faced Westralian and Sir Marfield, with another baldy-faced Royal Scot running strongly wide out, with Saxonian and Lysander handy. With 4 to go, Royal Scot is joined in front by Westralian, pulled to the outside, and Rimfire has moved up into 3rd position from Sir Marfield and Comic Court, still on the rails. Then comes Robert Bruce, Dark Man, Saxony, Banneret, and Howe's white bandages can be seen moving up on the rails before cutting out wide on the home turn. Straight. Comic Court on the rails has taken the lead, quickly overtaken by Rimfire, with Robert Bruce, Saxony, and Howe well placed wide on the outside in his great effort to overhaul the leaders. Rimfire shoots away, but watch Dark Man come between Comic Court and Rimfire and move over onto the rails to go out after the leader. Howe can't make it, beaten by his weight. At the furlong, Thompson anxiously goes for the whip, and inch by inch overhauls Rimfire, who's still in front 100 yards from the post. Dark Man is catching Rimfire with every stride, and they hit the line in a photo finish.
with Saxony passing Comic Court to take third place, with Howe fifth on the outside. Rimfire, Dark Man, Saxony. Repeating the finish in slow motion, the closeness of Dark Man's defeat is sensational. Rimfire and Dark Man have taken over from Comic Court, who then goes under to Saxony in another photo finish. Down to the post, it resolves into a battle between the apprentice Neville on Rimfire and the experienced Thompson on Dark Man. But the young boy is not overawed as he goes on to win by half a head and lop a quarter of a second off the record in a photo finish that brooks no argument. Broadcasters give the race to Dark Man, and the crowd is stunned as Rimfire's number 25 goes up into the frame. Ray Neville, rider of the winner, is only 16 years of age, his birthday being the day after the Melbourne Cup. A great achievement for a boy in only his 9th race, and Rimfire only his 2nd winner. The Governor-General, Mr. McKell, congratulates the jockey and the owner as he presents the cup.
Rimfire, a roughie, started at 80 to 1. But how well financially did young jockey Neville do out of it?
Not very good at all. Give me 25 quid. Which wasn't very good at all, but it was money.
But some owners are very generous, and in 1951 the New Zealand jockey H. Wiggins was promised the first prize of £10,000 if Akbar won. Remember that as they race to the finishing post.
Darby Monroe, an aristocrat. Arthur Ward on Basha Falika. Billy Cook on Hydrogen. 28 runners, everyone with thousands of supporters all over Australia as they go to the post. There's a sensation as a fire breaks out in a rubbish pit and smoke billows across the track as the big field lines up for the 2 miles. And just as the fire brigade rushes to the scene, the starter is about to let go the lever. Movietone's camera stand is right in the thick of it, and the horses are almost obscured by smoke as they leap out at the start. Sky Streamer and Bold John on the rails jump out well, followed by Midway and Socrates, but now smoke gets in our eye. But it's the final stretch that counts. As they make the home turn, watch the sensational fall as Morse Code goes down in front of the field, leaving Blue Vest on the rails to lead for a few yards. But now Grey Boots throws out a challenge. He fades quickly as he's passed by New Zealander Akbar with the blaze and white feet. And Akbar looks all over a winner. But the dark colors of Delta are now showing up, and he's rapidly gathering speed and making light work of his top weight. Selwood gets to work on Delta and overhauls Akbar. In the run to the judge, Delta on the outside wins by 3/4 of a length from Akbar with double blank third. Top weight Delta gets a grand reception as it goes back to scale. It's a great spring for Neville Selwood, who already won the Caulfield Cup. And with the £10,000 second leg in the bag, he's all smiles. Delta is the greatest horse racing in Australia today, one of our biggest stake winners.
And Akbar, 2nd. It was a subdued Cup day in 1914, subdued in colour and even in the greeting of old friends. The world had been at war for 3 months. There had been agitation to suspend racing for the duration, but it was decided that it was important for morale. The race was won by Kingsburg from Sir Elwinton and Moonrear. This wonderful old piece of film captures another mood, another time. Young Medic, who rode the winner, was apprenticed to W. Kelso, who tutored the great Jim Pike, Farlap's jockey. The second horse to win at 100 to 1 was Wotan, ridden by Ozzie Phillips.
Well, the only reason I got on at Norm Crichton, that was Mr. Fryer, the trainer's son-in-law, and he'd ridden him in the Cox Plate, and he would have ridden him in the Melbourne Cup, but he couldn't ride the weight, nowhere near the weight. That's the only reason I got on. He had 7-11. But after the Cox Plate had run a long way back, Norm Crichton still thought it had a great chance in the Cup. Matter of fact, he came in to me when I was in the jockey's room before he went out, and jockey's not supposed to bet, as you know, and he said, "You got any money?" And I said, "I haven't got much." He said, "You got a fiver?" And he said, I gave him the fiver, and he went out and he had £1,000 a fiver. He had 200 to win. So he done pretty well out of the Cup, old Norman.
And this is how Phillips and Mr. Crichton won their money that day.
Past a half mile with Young Crusader still showing the way, about 10 or 12 lengths in front of Talking on the fence. Knox is niggling at Talking now, and on the outside, Oro is still showing out prominently. Walken Prince making a fast run on the outside, and now at the 3, Young Crusader is coming back a bit to them. They're rounding the bend into the straight, but Young Crusader is still clear. Talking still holding his own on the fence in second place. Made the turn a bit badly, come out a bit wide. Queen of Song dashed up on the inside of Talking, but shortly after passing the 2, Knox has sat down in earnest on Talking, gradually making a bit of ground, but he's moved out from the fence, and Queen of Song getting a run through as nearest to Young Crusader. Knox has pulled the stick on Talking. Silver Standard has dashed through in between Talking and Queen of Song. Walken Prince is finishing on. Talking's got no chance. He's weakened. Silver Standard is in the lead, and Watton has thrown out a challenge on the outside. Watton has come from nowhere, gaining every stride, and passes the post in front of Silver Standard with Queen of Song and Walken Prince very near.
The only other winner at 100 to 1 was Old Rowley in 1940.
Australia stands too as the horses parade for the start. The big moment has arrived as the horses go up to the barrier with Beau Vite, hottest favorite since Farlap, leading the field. Many a hope rides with him today, as in every city and town the crowds listen.
Everything is, at the moment, favourable.
For once, the boss can't complain of a rowdy office, as pens are dropped and tools are down for the annual listen-in strike. The traffic stopped too, but it's not petrol rationing. They walk in for the start of the race, and they're out, with Bo Leave on the inside and Giltown wide out on the course, the smartest away, with Morburn left badly. Onto the course proper, Giltown shows the way to true flight, with Wilson wide out next from Indignity. Past the 2 furlong post first time around, Giltown is out 2 lengths clear of Beau Vite, who is on the inside of that bunch trio. On the outside of them, Indignity and Wilson with the white jacket going up very fast. As they race round the turn at the top of the straight, 3 furlongs to go, movie-tone slow-motion camera picks out Pandect leading from Dashing Cavalier, while on the extreme left of the picture, with the white bridle, is Old Rowley. You can see his number 11 on the saddle cloth as they swing into the straight. Now, with 2 furlongs to go, it's Pandect on the inside, but Beau Leave with the check jacket and bandaged feet challenges him and runs to the front. But on the outside, Old Rowley with the white bridle is making light of his 7 years. He passes Beau Leave, while Maikai with the dark jacket out wide is putting in his claim. But it's Old Rowley from Maikai with Tidal Wave with the light jacket coming through fast to take 3rd place at 100 to 1. Old Rowley's sharp win causes a turf sensation.
But no matter what price your horse, the jockey doesn't always benefit. Consider Ray Selkrig, who won on 20 to 1 chance Lord Fury in 1961.
I knew if I went out and made a pace to suit the rest of the jockeys, that they would leave me alone. So I went out with this in mind, to not to try and slow the field up, to make a good fast run race, but not go mad, which I did. First half mile in 50, the second half mile in 50 and a half, third half mile I ran 50 and a quarter, and the last half mile I ran 48 and 3/4. And I knew at the furlong post the way I was going then, if he didn't tire, I'd have to be a damn good horse to beat me.
Sparkler finishing fairly, but Lord Fury and Grand Print have the cup between them. Lord Fury stopping, Grand Print picking him back, and then Dorlagary under the whip. Lord Fury a length in front of Grand Print. Grand Print desperately ridden, can't reach the gap, and Dorlagary next from Rural Lock. But Lord Fury's going to win the cup from end to end and scores by a length and a quarter from Grand Print. 4 lengths away, 3rd Dorlagary, 4th Rural Lock.
And when it was over, Ray Selkrig certainly got the plaudits from the crowd, but what did he get from the owner?
He only gave me £250 for winning the cup, and he paid me in cash, and I wouldn't accept the cash. I told him the taxation never believed me, so he just took the cash back and wrote me a cheque out for £250. Bit light.
Certainly seems a bit light for winning a Melbourne Cup, but I'm sure Ray hasn't given up hope altogether.
He might leave me some more than he will, mightn't he?
The New Zealand connection goes back a very long time. It all started with a 5-year-old mare called Lurline, who could finish only 13th in the 1874 Melbourne Cup. But what is so special about her is that she was the first New Zealand horse to make that treacherous crossing by steamer over the Tasman to start in the Cup. She was the forerunner of the New Zealand invasion. When discussing the connection between New Zealand and the Cup, Two words instantly come to mind: patience and breeding. There's no helter-skelter of early 2-year-old races for budding stayers. They're kept in lush paddocks to grow. Not for them the risk of putting too much strain on still-growing legs if staying is to be their forte. And judging on results in recent years, they've found the right formula.
A world authority on breeding once said of this Waikato district in the North Island of New Zealand that it has the bluegrass of Kentucky, the climate of California, and the limestone of Ireland. Little wonder that this area, which is the heart of the breeding industry in the Dominion, produces such a rich source of quality horses, beautifully conformed, strong in bone, and powerful in heart.
And this stud in particular has an extra special place in the history of the Melbourne Cup.
This little piece of England, situated in the heart of the Waikato district in the North Island of New Zealand, about 2 hours' drive from Auckland, was established by Seton Otway about 50 years ago. He called it Trelawney Stud, and it has a remarkable history as far as the Melbourne Cup is concerned. For here, the great sire Foxbridge came from England, a group race winner there, not great shakes as a racehorse, but certainly he became a great sire and a great sire of mares. Foxbridge mares were responsible for Melbourne Cup winners Haraji, Fox Army, McDougall, High Jinks and Silver Knight. And to take it a little bit further, the grandam of Melbourne Cup winner Polo Prince was also a Foxbridge mare. Foxbridge was followed here as a sire by Alcimedes. And of course, Alcimedes was the sire of the champion Melbourne Cup winner Galilee. But to tie everything up for Trelawney Stud, Alcimedes also sired Silver Knight, who was out of a Foxbridge mare. They both died here at the age of 27. Foxbridge, of course, was the champion New Zealand broodmare sire on 10 occasions, and his progeny won over 917,000 pounds, and that goes back to the 1950s. Alcimedes was the champion Australian sire in 66, 67 and 69, 70. There is no doubt that of all studs, it's Trelawney Stud that has had the greatest influence on our great Melbourne Cup.
1949, and migrants were still adjusting to a country that declared a holiday for a horse race.
Wise punters persist in taking up early positions, but nothing will hurry up, milady, when there are fashions to be shown. Millinery, frocks, accessories and furs worth a king's ransom on parade. A popular shade is royal tan, of course. There may be some scratchings if a carbon copy frock turns up, but it takes a morning suit and grey topper to make a dashing beau, with Flemington's stylish crowd, including General Sir Thomas Blamey. Victoria's new governor, Sir Dallas Brooks, is greeted on arrival by Mr. Turnbull, president of the Victorian Racing Club. His Excellency then introduces Lady Brooks and their daughter. By Cup Day, accidents and disappointing form have reduced the field to 31, and the best jockeys and the best stayers in Australia are ready to go to the post. 2 grueling miles, but a rich reward. They're at the post. The starter hits the lever, and they're off. Better Law and Dashing Beau get away well on the rails, and Persist, 9 horses out from the rails, is also prominent. But watch Comic Court number 2 make a great run from the outside marble, followed by the white bandage forelegs and bridle of Bruin as they race across to dispute the lead. And before they've gone a furlong, Comic Court has joined the lead and is only 2 horses out from the rails. Racing on the course proper, Better Law loses his position on the rails, and then Fox Army, number 5, has gone to the front, passing the dark colours of Hoyle and the diamonds of Comic Court in 3rd place, with the white feet of Bruin flashing on the outside. Head on as they approach the half mile, it's still Bruin in front from Hoyle, and that white blaze in Sudnerick, who is being rapidly overhauled by Saxony. Bruin is still clear by 2 lengths from Hoyle and Fox Army, then Sunlyric, Saxony, Comic Court and Persist. But Fox Army comes out from the rails to commence his winning run. Rounding the turn into the straight, Bruin, the only father in the field, is making a daddy of a run and looks like stealing the race from Hoyle and Fox Army. Playboy is next on the rails, then Stamen with Benvolo on the outside. Inside the 2 furlongs, Hoyle is dashing to the front with Fox Army in close attendance on the outside, but going the better. Furlong from home, Hoyle is headed off by Fox Army, and then it's all over as the Sydney horse dashes away to win by a length and a half from Hoyle, with Benvolo just coming into the picture to take 3rd place from Bruin and nearly catch Hoyle on the post. Fox Army, Hoyle, Benvolo, Bruin. Sydney jockeys ride all 3 place getters, and for Billy Fellows on Fox Army, it's a great thrill. A win in his first Melbourne Cup. New Zealand-bred Fox Army is well backed at 16-1, not to mention the stake and the Gold Cup presented by Governor Sir Dallas Brooks to owner Robinson.
It's now 1964, and another invader from New Zealand is Polo Prince. Ridden by New Zealand Ron Taylor in superlative fashion, Polo Prince was a 12-to-1 chance. Here was the typical lean, tough, race-hardened stayer from across the Tasman.
Striking Force and Piper's Son. At the 3, Romanda coming back about 6 lengths to Strauss and Polo Prince. Then Welltown quite able on the outside of that bunch is Bonfaloo, Jovial Knight, hard ridden from Battle Standard. They were followed then on the outside by Striking Force coming into the picture, and on the inside of that bunch of horses is Sir Wynyard and Sir Dane starting to come home from a long way back. At the 1.5 furlongs, and Polo Prince has hit the front now, tackled immediately by Welltown from Strauss and Straight Irish. Piper Sunwider out on the track is finishing well. Sir Dane's well gone. I think he's broken down. Polo Prince has shot well clear. Here's LKL and Welltown coming after him. Polo Prince in front within measurable distance of the post, and he's going to win it from LKL. Welltown third, fourth was Algernon.
1971. Flemington is alive with colour as the fashions parade. Fillies rival fillies as the centre of attraction. But the fashion is soon forgotten when it's time for the horses to appear.
21 starters are ready for the greatest staying event in the nation, with Gay Icarus a 7-4 favourite. New Zealand-bred Skint Dip is second fancy, while other New Zealanders, Silver Knight and Not Again, share third favouritism with Victorian stayer Big Faloo. Every starter carries the hopes of people all round the nation.
All in, light flashing. They're off! Near the inside, Sand Sequin, one of the first to find grass. Getting out very, very fast also a Skin Dip, and getting away quickly as Lincoln's in down near the inside. From the outside of them, Narper began very fast, and so did Fair Sample as they come across the first 10 crossing and run down towards the leaking up onto the course proper. Lincoln's in as the leader from Cool Alibi, with Fair Sample moving up on the outside, and Narper is 3 across the track vying for the lead. Not Again is just in behind them, followed by Skin Dip taking up a beautiful posse on the pace on the inside of Big Faloo, and wider out on the outside is Jenny's Pride, a length and a half further back in the field. Then came Arctic Symbol pushing up along the rails. On the outside is Gay Icarus. He's trapped about 3 deep, but he's going up fast towards the leading bunch. Where's he going? Up towards the lead, and the crowd roared as Valiant went up to tackle for the lead on Gay Icarus. Daring Tactics now. It's a great race, or Not Again. He's about to be tackled by Igloo up on the outside, who's gone up very fast. And as they made the run around the turn, anybody's race 2.25 furlongs out. Igloo, Not Again, and Cool Alibi, the bolter on the outside is tackling. And here comes Big Faloo, pulled out as Silver Knight, and down the outside is Skin Dip. Where's the favourite? Gay Icarus, he's running fourth. I don't think he can win. At the furlong, Igloo is the leader. Silver Knight is the big danger. Down the outside is Tails. Silver Knight raced up to Igloo. Silver Knight goes to the front at the half furlong pole, and Silver Knight will win the cup. Igloo second, Tails third. Fourth then is Skin Dip. They're followed by Fair Sample on the inside of Royal Show and Arctic Symbol.
Once again, New Zealand shows the way, filling 3 of the first 4 places. New Zealand jockey Bruce Marsh rode a brilliant race on Silver Knight to give he and trainer Eric Temperton their first Melbourne Cup victory.
This is Seton Otway. He's bred more cup winners than anyone alive. He's very old and very wise. And he'll tell you the secret of breeding a cup winner.
Just a bloody fluke. Yeah, just a fluke. You might put 2 old mares to 2 different horses, and they both might throw no cup winners, and you might try to sell them, you might get anything for them.
That's right.
Oh no, it's in the lap of the gods. That's what it is.
But despite it being a fluky business, Seton Otway has bred McDougall, High Jinks, Fox Army, Silver Knight, and others. He's handed the business over to his son Jim, but he can't bear to leave Trelawney. Nor should he. He belongs here.
I live here because I love the horses, and I love coming down and watching most people that are gone, most my age would clear out and live somewhere else. But not me. I'm going to stay here until I can't walk.
The first New Zealand horse to win the Cup was Martini Henry in 1883. 7 years later came this horse, Carbine, whose name is mentioned in the same breath as father. Carbine finished second in his first Cup start, carrying 10 stone after splitting a hoof in the race. The following year, he lumped 10 stone 5 pounds in the largest ever field, 39 starters. But he ran a race record. no horses since won with more weight. Apolog was the next New Zealander to win in 1907. They knew how to bet back in those days. Apolog and his stablemate Poseidon were backed in the double for £100,000 in a single bet. It came off. Watching with the world-renowned singers Madame Clara Butt and Dame Nellie Melba, and some melodic barracking was heard. Apolog started 3-1 favourite and won by 3/4 of a length. The year 1916 saw the first all-New Zealand victory. Sassanov saluted on a Saturday after the Tuesday date was postponed. There were a couple of other firsts that day. Bookmakers had to pay stamp duty, and for the first time, winning owners received a cup as a trophy. Sassanov was unique in those days, being the first winner to be bred, owned and trained in the Dominion. In 1938, the winner, Catalogue, was actually trained by a woman, forced by the rules of racing to use her husband's name.
22 horses, the pick of Australian and New Zealand thoroughbreds, are entered for the classic race. Here are a few of them. The Trump, last year's winner. H&G, fine if it's wet. Alunga, gallant veteran. Marauder, the raider. St. Constant, watch that white blaze. Royal Chief, the favourite. Catalogue, another New Zealand hope. Spear Chief from Queensland. Queen of Song, New Zealand 2-year-old. Bourbon, maybe the dark horse. But the cup meeting isn't just a sporting event, it's a social event too. Famous faces at the races. There's it. It looks nicer, round fair faces and funny chapeaux. And while everyone looks at their hats, they hope. The ladies look at the horses, for fashion is always with us, but the Melbourne Cup comes only once a year. Into the straight, the leader is now Catalogue, showing the way. Out very wide in the white colours is Gay Knight, fourth. So New Zealand springs another surprise, and the 8-year-old Catalogue, the oldest horse in the race, rises from obscurity to win one of the world's greatest turf classics, the Melbourne Cup. 30 starters saddle up for the big prize. There's the white bandages of Dalray, the glamour topweight with Billy Williamson. 2 Monroe on hydrogen. 3 Hutchison on Morse code, and Breesley on Caulfield Cup winner Peshawar. This is the moment when punters are really on their...
Hi-ho, look at those odds tumble, especially when the New Zealanders are around. This is the start of the 1952 Cup. There are 30 runners, and the winner Dalray, carrying 9 stone 8, finishes too well for the 200-to-1 pop Welkin Sun. The owner, Mr. Neville, won an estimated £50,000 in bets.
Watch the tail of the field as Spellman falls. White Talk is still leading with Fetlar. Hydrogen is tiring. Welkin Sun, 4 from the rails, is now showing up to take the lead. But watch Dalray with white bandages finishing like a shot out of a gun. It's a battle royal between the New Zealand topweight and the 200-to-1 shot Welkin Sun. Although Williamson has to check him, champion Dalray's just too good. Look at the hoops of Reform, flying into 3rd place. Taking a fortune from the ring, Dalray is hailed as a worthy successor to Parlap. And Williamson looks unconcerned over his first Melbourne Cup win.
1954, and Rising Fast, bred in New Zealand, was bought for 325 guineas by Mr. Lester Spring, who'd never owned a racehorse before. Rising Fast was penalised the maximum £10 after winning the Caulfield Cup that year, and there'd been a big delay before announcing whether he would run in the Melbourne Cup. Owner, Mr. Lester Spring, a controversial figure at the time, gives his version of the events.
Ivan Tucker, for propaganda purposes, screamed loud about the penalty of £10. And he said to me, we're not going to let them know what we're going to do yet. He said, now don't you say anything, but he said, I'm going to let the press know that a start in the Melbourne Cup is doubtful on account of the impossible penalty he's got. But he said, don't worry about that. He said, he'll win it just the same. But he said, we'll keep them on edge until such time as we can get something out of it. Otherwise, he said, we'll never get anything out of it. And this is what we did. And I got quite upset at the last. The papers were at me.
So Mr. Springs succumbed to the pressure and visited the hotel of Sydney racing journalist Jack Charles.
When we go up, and he's lying in bed reading a book, and his wife's reading a book, and he said to me, what do you want? And I said, well, I'm prepared to give you the news if you're prepared to arrange a bet for me somewhere. He said, what news? Well, I said, I'll give you the first news that we're going to start in the Melbourne Cup. And he said, oh, well, I'll ring Ken Ranger. He rang Ken Ranger in Sydney from his bed and said to Ken Ranger, I've got Mr. Spring in here. He wants to back Rising Fast in the Melbourne Cup. What are your odds? 6 to 1. And Jack turned to me and he said, 6 to 1. He said, what do you want? I said, I want 700. Are you there, Ken? You want 700. That's okay. And I looked at Jack afterwards and I said, is it okay? Oh, yes. He said, you'll get your betting chip in the morning in the mails. And I got it.
Good odds as Rising Fast won at 5 to 2 favourite. 1957 gave us two great thoroughbreds, Tulloch and Todman, but neither of them was to start in the Cup. Red Craze with Arthur Ward on top carried 10 stone 2, but he was still favourite. But Straight Draw was also well backed at 13 to 2.
Top hats are odds on favourites, though if you pick winners by numbers, here's a number, that's a winner all the way. Women of all nations in national costumes add colour to a traditionally colourful scene. Well, girls, what's it going to be? Red Craze, Monte Carlo, Straight Draw? Well, something's got to win. Anyway, here's the long and short of it. And there goes long and short now. And whatever you back, you'll get a thrill because this race is always a thriller. The crowd's tense, the horses are at the post. And they're racing in the Melbourne Cup. Beaumine went straight to the rails at Barrier Rise, and Prince Darius, one of the best to begin from Relcon. Then Red Craze and Syntax, who got away well from Monte Carlo. Nether Gold and Allura in behind that bunch, followed by Newstone, Borgia, Carbia, Straight Draw and Pandy Sun. Beaupower at the head of the others, followed by Gallantly and Baron Boisia, and Beaumine has tailed right off in the straight on the first occasion. The lightly weighted Allura had taken over to pilot the field from Nether Gold and Straight Draw. Baron Boisia moving forward sharply, followed by Monte Carlo. Then Newstone and Gallantly from Prince Darius on the rails. Syntax is next from Pandy Sun. Then a gap to Beaupower, Relcon, and Red Craze at the head of the others. On the turn into the straight in the Cup, and Gallantly it forged his way clear of Nether Gold and Monte Carlo. Straight Draw going through them, and Prince Darius finishing well. At the distance, Straight Draw is clear of Prince Darius and Monte Carlo. Syntax finishing well, followed by Allura, and then a gap to Pandy Sun. Straight Draw in front as they get close to the line. Inch by inch, the little Prince is wearing him down. Straight Draw and Prince Darius staging a mammoth duel. The whips are out, and Straight Draw goes as straight as a gun barrel to beat Prince Darius. Third, Pandy Sun. They're followed by Syntax.
She was going to back that until she met the petticoat puller. Oh, well, it's only 12 months to the next Cup, and she'll be back, and who knows, she might back her own tip.
This grand old lady is in her 24th year, but back in the mid-1960s, she was the toast of the Australian turf. She's a bit more wrinkled and woolly today. You probably recognise her. Yes, it's Light Fingers. And today, a nickname of Goldie, she's known as the toast of Parongia. Light Fingers won the Big Fillies treble in 1964, the Edward Manifold, the Wakeful and the Oaks. And she was set for the Caulfield Melbourne Cups double in 1965. She contracted a virus before the Caulfield Cup and couldn't even start in it. And then as things were heading towards the Melbourne Cup, she clipped a horse's heels in the Caulfield Stakes, nearly fell and badly ricked a shoulder muscle. It didn't look as though she'd run. But regular rider Roy Higgins said he wouldn't accept a ride on anything else, because if she happened to start in the Cup, Roy said, I want to ride my little girl. Well, she got to the post in the Cup all right. Punters didn't think she could win. She got out to 15 to 1. But win she did. What courage. My little girl, Roy said. She was only little, wasn't she? But that courage got her to the post a short half head in front of stablemate Zima. No doubt about it, Light Fingers had all the courage in the world and was the first lady of the turf. Well, this is another New Zealand matron who made her name on the Melbourne Cup long before even light fingers. It's High Jinks. And you wouldn't believe it, she's 29 years old, carrying on like a 2-year-old. And she won the 1960 Centenary Melbourne Cup, and she beat 2 other New Zealanders. High Jinks defeated Ilumph and Housey. What a wonderful performance it was, because she was pretty wide all the way. And that cup was the richest Melbourne Cup that's ever been run to that stage. With me, of course, is Trevor Knowles, part owner and trainer of High Jinks. Tell me, Trevor, how did she ever get into a Melbourne Cup with 7-10 and start at 50 to 1?
Well, Bill, she had a right weight, really. She'd had 2 wins in open company in New Zealand. It was about the right weight for a mare, I thought.
It was a great winning performance because she did cover a lot of ground.
She did cover a lot of ground, and her secret to her success, her racing career, she could sprint at the end of any journey. Even 2 miles.
So is Nalako and Valerius, and wider out is Housey. A Lunk starting to thread its way through the field, and further back in the field is Tulloch. At the furlong post now, anybody's race. Dorlagary's got to the front in the cup from Valerius, High Jinks, Manchu, Rose of Summer. And here's a Lunk coming home very fast. Dorlagary stopping, a Lunk going for the rails run on the outside. High Jinks has got his head in front with Housey. A Lunk flashing home, but High Jinks has won the cup. A half head to Housey, a half head to a Lunk third.
Some backed it and some didn't. And for those that did, it was a great reward because High Jinks started at 50 to 1. It was an all New Zealand finish. High Jinks first, Housey second, and a Ilumph third. There were 101,000 people at Flemington that day, and lightweight jockey Billy Smith could have smiled for all of them. Tulloch was the popular pick despite his 10 stone 1. The public backed him into 3 to 1 favourite, and he ran a gallant 6th. One of the best stayers to come from New Zealand was Even Stevens. Ridden by Les Coles, Even Stevens won the Caulfield Cup by 4 lengths, after which he was penalised the maximum £10 for the 1962 Melbourne Cup. Did this worry Coles?
No, I wasn't really concerned. In fact, I was quite happy because I didn't have to waste that from then on. But after he raced in the Werribee Cup, and I know what work he did between the Caulfield and Werribee Cup, it's unbelievable preparation. And Billy Pires that was riding at the time, I think he rode Chong Sam in the Caulfield Cup, and I said, if this horse can win the Werribee Cup on the preparation that he's done, he'll win the Melbourne Cup. He'll improve that much, and that's exactly what he did.
Then Rural Lock and Tamura's last with Burgos. On the turn into the straight, and Aquanita's hit the front out wide. Moore's gone very early, and he led clearly into the straight. Aquanita a length and a half to the dip. In third place, Mam Birdie, followed by Barbertook, come on, and Even Stevens threading his way through from Welcome Prince and Rajput. At the 2, and Aquanita shot 2 lengths clear of the dip, and Even Stevens now coming home well. Then Barbertook, Lord Fury and Comic Keita. Aquanita's given in. He's caught by Even Stevens, and Comic Keita coming from nowhere. It's Even Stevens clear at the furlong from Aquanita and Comic Keita. Then Blue Sean finishing well from the dip. But Even Stevens too good for them in the run to the post. And he's coming away to win the Melbourne Cup clearly from Comic Keita. Aquanita third, 4th Blue Sean, followed by the dip.
Even Stevens, a striking chestnut, joined 4 other horses as winners of the 2 Cups double. The New Zealander Baghdad Note, a grey like Haraji, travelled by boat across the Tasman and won at 25 to 1.
As they race up past the half-mile post now, and Voleur on the outside has gone up to challenge for the lead. It's Voleur on the outside and on the inside rail, Mr. President and Voleur, the 2 leaders as they start to swing for home. 3 furlongs left to go in the Melbourne Cup. Mr. President on the inside, joined now by Voleur going up on the outside. Naples on the inside rail. Beer Street is there waiting to have a crack at them. Here comes Arctic Symbol down the outside, and Clear Prince is going with him at the 2 furlongs post, and Voleur has hit the front. Beer Street's the big danger. He's going up to join him on the outside, and here comes Clear Prince at them, and Mumba Fox on the outside, and now with a furlong and a half to go. Voleur is challenged by Tavel getting a split. Tavel, Clear Prince, Mumba, and on the outside, Baghdad Note. Half a furlong left to go. The grey Baghdad Note on the outside has got to the front. It's Baghdad Note from Clear Prince, and Bassett are flying. Baghdad Note in front near the line, and he won it. Baghdad Note has won the cup.
What a great run. He joined in like he'd nearly missed the boat. Oh, but did he join in, like some other great Kiwis. Like Midge Didham, his rider, and they defeated Vansittart and the 3-year-old Clear Prince. He was the 3rd grey to win the cup, and his lead-up form had been excellent. A dead heat for 3rd in the Caulfield Cup and a 5th in the McKinnon. Surprising that he started at such great odds.
Well, Vanderham the liqueur doesn't mix with water, but Vanderham the horse certainly does. And on that very watery day at Flemington, he just showed them what it was all about in 1976.
It was one of the wettest cups on record. The stewards even postponed the start of the race because of the rain, and it was thought it may not even be run. How did these people know beforehand that the Flemington lawns would be transformed into swimming pools? The conditions were tailor-made for the New Zealander Vanderham.
They go to the 800 metres. Happy Union just in front of Summer Hay. The outsider Reckless going up on the outside now to tackle the pair of them. Golden Blackies eased off the fence and they were followed further back then by Captain Perry. Tara's Regent is coming into the picture at the head of the rest as they came to the home turn, and Vanderham starting to make a run. It's impossible almost to pick these horses out into the straight. Happy Union's just in front of Summer Hay. Reckless the outside, and I think it's Golden Black moving up on the outside to tackle them. Vanderham is starting to run on, and then Tara's Regent. It's Happy Union in front at the 400 from Summer Hay, and Reckless coming down the outside now. It's Vanderham. Vanderham and Golden Black out after the leaders. Vanderham's moved up now with Golden Black, and they're fighting the cup out. Vanderham's taken a narrow lead from Golden Black, Reckless and Happy Union, and there it's 100 to go. It's Vanderham in front in the Melbourne Cup. The Mudlarks got it won, and Vanderham draws away to win a length and a half to Golden Black.
Vanderham was ridden by veteran New Zealand jockey Bob Skelton, whose mother would be hard put to recognise him until he grinned. Probably the finest staying performance in modern times was Kiwi, when he joined in like a sprinter inside the 200 metres to win in 1983. He arrived in Australia with a big reputation, but no one quite expected such a finishing burst. Kiwi looks very relaxed here, but he sure is different on race day. Snowy Lupton, his trainer, rides him in all his track work at Waverley in New Zealand. Even though Kiwi had not been at Flemington before, his rider Jim Cassidy had something up his sleeve.
Well, I knew a very good trainer in New Zealand, Eric Templeton, who had previously had 2 runners in a Melbourne Cup and won a Melbourne Cup with Silver Knight. And he watched Kiwi's preparation very carefully. He realised the year before, after he won the Wellington Cup, that he was probably one of the biggest prospect 2-milers in New Zealand to have an opportunity to win a Melbourne Cup. And he actually sort of half-by labelled the horse to win the Melbourne Cup a week before. And I just sort of said to Mr Templeton if he could give me any advice, and he just said to ride him exactly the same as I have in New Zealand and sort of ride him as cool as a cucumber. He pointed out one thing in the Cup, the clock tower about a furlong out, and he just said if I can have him wound up to be looking to get somewhere near the leaders at the clock tower, he was a good thing.
They're ready. They're racing. And first out was Hussar's Command from La Cocotte, and Triumphal March away well from Bianco Lady Kiamare. Wider out, Mr Jazz got away nicely, and coming right from the outside, Combat looking for the lead and getting it, and Hay-I away well. They were followed by English Wonder and Mark Vogel behind them from Nostradamus. Then came Noble Heights, No Peer. To Jormeo next from Amaranth, and well back in the field is Homemade, and Kiwi is last. Onto the course proper, Combat by 3 lengths now. 2 in second placing, Bianco Lady from La Cocotte. Wonder Kiamara, Dittman's got over, 1 off the fence, working towards the rails. Mr Jazz is at his girth, and then Triumphal March the inside from Mark Vogel. A length further back, Just a Dash, followed then by Noble Comment, a length to Hay-I. On the outside, No Peer, followed then by Hussar's Command, and then came Noble Heights. English Wonder the outside, followed by Nostradamus in that fifth punch with Veloso. Fountain Court next from Chez Nou, 3 or 4 lengths to Shagamar. Then came Mevron Boy, behind it to Jormeo, Homemade, Amaranth, and last of all, Kiwi.
Kiwi giving them an enormous start at Chiquita Lodge. We spotlight the horse as Jimmy Cassidy tells his story.
Well, at the half mile, it was, as you say, the crucial part of the race. And at the time, I was probably some 20 to 25 lengths from the leader. But it was that crucial, I couldn't ask my Kiwi to go forward because I was always thinking of the good inside information from Eric Templeton about getting somewhere near them at the clock tower, from the half mile to the clock leader. But it was that crucial, I couldn't ask my Kiwi to go forward because I was always thinking of the good inside information from Eric Templeton about getting somewhere near them at the clock tower.
Noble Comment and Mr Jazz. Mr. Jazz, Noble Comment, Kiamare clear. Veloso making some sort of a run, and Kiwi late. It's going to be close here. Kiwi's going to beat them all with a mighty run. Kiwi swamps them on the line, and Kiwi's won at a length and a half to Noble Comment.
There are few horses that literally everyone. Adelaide trainer Colin Hayes saddled up probably his best cup chance in 1977 with Dulcify. Dulcify had won the Cox Plate by 7 lengths. Colin was looking for joy. Instead, a tragedy.
And so I suppose it really has provided the saddest moment of my racing life and probably the happiest moment, winning it the next year.
Colin Hayes got his joy in 1980 with Belledale Ball, owned by Mr. Robert Sangster.
Well, I thought because of the handicaps that Belledale Ball was the horse put in on the half, because Bohemian Grove was weighted up to his top form, and it is a 2-mile race, and I thought the other one was a 2-miler and one wasn't, but Robert said that on their English form he couldn't put them in the same paddock, and he backed Bohemian Grove.
Ball 2 in front of the 300. He's holding them safely at bay. Let's Riding for Dear Life. Love Bandit second. Arw on the outside. Hyperno in a pocket, and then came My Blue Denim with a fast run. But Belledale Ball's got the Melbourne Cup won. My Blue Denim coming from the clouds into second place. Belledale Ball stopping to a walk, but he's going to win. Belledale Ball, Johnny Letts beats My Blue Denim. Love Bandit third.
In 1986, Colin Hayes won his second Melbourne Cup, and his new stable jockey, Michael Clark, tasted success in the big one for the first time on the imported end tyre at Tallac.
Wara half in front, Rising Fear the outside, one to at Tallac, My Tristram Spell. Sea Legends moving up quickly with Joel out a bit deeper on the track and moving around them. Mr. Lamondi's going well. A length to Midmaster coming into the picture. Empire Rose in that group of horses with Black Knight. They start to bunch up in the cup. Waratah Bay's wider out. Kiwis behind those horses. Samarsan's trying to thread his way through. Fordyce out wide. Final Advance well back. Just now's about third last. Born to be Queen in front of those horses, and Dark Intruders last into the straight. They've got 4.50 to go in the cup. Feedaway joined by Rising Fear. At Tallac about to come at them from My Tristram Spell. Mintmaster. Joel with a run. Empire Rose, Mr. Lamondi, Born to be Queen running on in reckless tradition. At Tallac at the 300s, burst away from Rising Fear. 2 lengths to Sea Legend. Further back Joel, Mr. Lamondi, Kiwi with a late run. At Tallac in front from Rising Fear. Kiwi running on with Sea Legend. Clark's got it one, I think. At Tallac's a length and a half in front of Rising Fear. Colin Hayes wins his second cup. At Tallac a half Rising Fear.
The Cup was a triumph for Clark, who had been number 2 rider for Hayes for a number of years. His loyalty and professionalism paid off when he was given the number 1 position, replacing Darren Gauci. It was a remarkable ride by Clark and was evidence of just how much this likeable young man had come of age as a champion jockey. The success of At Tallac, owned by Sheikh Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, is sure to further enhance overseas interest in this great event. And indeed, since the Melbourne Cup success, the Sheikh has increased his interests in the Australian industry. Certainly, this Melbourne Cup did more than any other for Australia's profile on the international racing scene. Following his fast-finishing third in the Moonee Valley Cup, the imported galloper Rosedale, owned by international owner Nelson Bunker Hunt, became the public elect for the 1987 Foster's Melbourne Cup.
They're racing. Belciano jumped well. The roar from the crowd as one of the first out is Scarvilla, Kenzai. Cossack Warrior easing behind them, and Empire Rose has begun very well. Just behind them now, Belciano, it's going to cross to near the rails in front, I think. And they're followed by South of Belmont and Rosedale on the outside. Then Like a Topic and Beautrist is just behind them as they come onto the course proper. Belciano is a surprise leader, Cook restraining it. In second place, South of Belmont, Scarvilla on the rails, followed by Like a Topic. Rosedale up about 5th, and just behind it is the Brotherhood. Here's Agent Provocative now going to head them all off over on the outside. Rising Fear is in about 6th or 7th, placing Beautrist behind it. Then Royal Heights, and they were followed further back in the field by Lord Highbrow. Next is Kenzai, Cool Rock and Daddy, about a length further back, Argonaut Style. On the rails, Regimental March outside at King Matthias, then Pegamagess. Cossack Warrior is back second last, and our Palace are at the rear. 600 out on the corner, and Skelton's taken Rising Fear to the lead in the Cup. Rising Fear heads for home with Agent Provocative. Then Belciano off the rails now from Like a Topic. Here's Rosedale pulled out wide on the track, and King Matthias is back behind them under the whip. With 400 to go, Agent Provocative fights back. It's about a length in front of Belciano. Rising Fear's gone. Scarvilla's got out. Here comes Rosedale on the outside with Empire Rose. They're claiming them quickly. Empire Rose got to the lead. Rosedale tackling it. Kensai's got up on the rails. Larry Olsen driving it through. Kensai's run to Empire Rose. Kensai's taken the lead, and Kensai won the cup.
Kensai produced the ultimate result for a group of battling owners. The first prize of $812,000, taking his earnings past $1 million. Kensai was purchased privately by well-known syndicator Harry Lawton for $15,000. He is the second son of Royal Charger Line stallion Blarney Kiss to win the Melbourne Cup. Snowy Lupton, who raced the first Kiwi, actually bid on Kensai at the Waikato yearling sales, just 10 weeks after Kiwi's Cup triumph. At Waikato, Kensai was passed in for $13,000 New Zealand dollars. In 1988, giant New Zealand mare Empire Rose returned to Melbourne for her third attempt at winning the Cup. Following her outstanding effort to win the McKinnon Stakes on Derby Day, she rocketed to favouritism, and as race time approached, the mare was joined as equal favourite by the imported horse Natski.
They're racing in the 88 Foster's Melbourne Cup, and Mite down on the inside has jumped away well. Mr. Bunny Thorpe is prominent. Natski drops behind, and so does Full at Last. Orthal is up in a prominent spot, and Apollo Run just behind the pace, and then Congressman. Kensai is just behind them, and they're being attended over a little bit further by Narbodo, which Candide is racing with them, and out deeper on the track, Lord Highbrow going up to occupy a forward berth from Copper Tonic, and Empire Rose is the widest of all, and Banderole has dropped out to last. Natski is third last. As they race down the straight the first time, Orthal in front, there's no pace on. Midas on the inside of Lord Highbrow. Empire Rose going up into second placing now from Copper Tonic, then Narbodo, Belciano. It's Candide, Shantaroon, Apollo Run, Congressman. Terrific three wide, Mr. Bunny Thorpe, Ideal Centre Man, Kensai, Secret Seal, Our Classic Bay, followed by Full at Last, and then Round the World, followed by Natski, and a gap then to Algonquin Club, and Banderole is last, 20 lengths from the lead, followed by Secret Seal, and then Natski, Banderole and Algonquin Club. They're spread right out as they come up now with 1,000 metres to go. Orthal trying to lead all the way is a length and a half to Empire Rose on the outside of Mite. They're followed by Our Classic Bay. Then came on the inside Narbodo, being followed then by Copper Tonic, Lord Highbrow, Apollo Run. It's Candida's on the fence, followed by Belciano. Then Mr. Bunnythorpe, Shantaroon, Ideal Centre Man, Kensai at least 12 lengths off the lead, and Natski is starting a run back behind them, and Full at Last is racing with them, and so is Congressman, and Banderole is the back of the rear as they straighten up for the run home. 500 metres to go in the Foster's Melbourne Cup, and here goes Empire Rose up to challenge Orthal. 2 lengths farther away at the head of the others, Our Classic Bay. Apollo Run down the outside. It's Candide called upon for her effort. Mr. Bunnythorpe, and down the outside Natski's flying from Ideal Centre Man. Empire Rose hit the front and went clear from Apollo Run. Natski finishing gamely. It's Empire Rose in front. Natski trying to pick it up from Narbodo. Empire Rose just in front. Natski coming hard, a desperate finish. I think Empire Rose has just won from Natski.
The public's judgment was vindicated when the equal favourites fought out a thrilling finish. And with her narrow victory, Empire Rose became Outstanding Stallion Sir Tristram's 30th individual Group 1 winner, and the first 6-year-old mare to win the Foster's Melbourne Cup.
Let's end our record with a unique event at the Cup of 1896. It surely says something about the importance of this great race that this was the first film ever shot in Australia. A Frenchman shot it for posterity, which is to say, for us.
So, have we answered the question? Perhaps no one ever will. Except that the Melbourne Cup brings all the exciting elements of racing together in one race on this fabulous Tuesday. But perhaps there's one thing that is typically Aussie about it. Being a handicap, it allows relatively moderate horses to beat the best. The battler can make it to the top. That rather makes it a symbol of our nation, don't you think?
What a parade. These fabulous Tuesdays. Drought and depression, good times and bad. We traipse to Flemington, and the nation holds its breath.